If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
Imagine this scenario. It's a Saturday morning in a mid-sized American city. A grocery store is packed with families doing their weekly run. A church parking lot is filling up for a midweek service. A school bus is pulling into the drop-off lane. In each of those locations, at some point in the past several months, someone was watching, someone was counting, someone was mapping the routine. No bomb threat called in, no alert on the news, no warning from law enforcement because they're still in the reconnaissance phase. That's the targeting doctrine used by terrorists. Target selection isn't random. Your neighborhood is being evaluated. The only question is whether you know it. The Iranian proxy warfare network, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda's online recruiting programs are the primary enemy system driving this threat. These networks do not need to send a fighter across the border to execute an attack. It funds, radicalizes, and directs operationally through digital channels, encrypted platforms, and a pre-positioned ideological pipeline that converts disaffected individuals inside the United States into instruments of violence. ISIS and Al-Qaeda function as the ideological arms of this broader apparatus, providing target guidance, operational doctrine, and martyrdom propaganda to lone actors who carry out the ground-level work. What they want is the permanent erosion of your confidence in the safety of everyday American life, the grocery store, the church, the school, the bus stop. They're not trying to win a conventional war. They're trying to make you afraid to live normally. Welcome to Survival Dispatch News. It's April 3rd, 2026, and I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I'm joined by 26-year CIA case officer Jeff Emde and 24-year CBP Special Agent JJ Carroll, and the one and only Agent 00711, Khalid Muhammad, from Command 11 in Pakistan. Bottom line up front, Jihadi networks operating inside America are selecting targets based on vulnerability, symbolic value, and maximum disruption. And everyday locations like churches, schools, and shopping centers are pre-identified long before any action is taken. Your daily routine may already be cataloged in an enemy database, and most Americans have no idea their habits are functioning as pre-attack intelligence. So what we're covering tonight is the methodology behind jihadi target selection, the pipeline that feeds it, and what prepared Americans can do to harden themselves in their communities right now. Jumping directly into segment number one, the target selection doctrine, how they choose before they strike. Jihadi target selection follows a deliberate multi-phase doctrine that begins with broad vulnerability assessment. Locations are evaluated for crowd density, security posture, symbolic weight, immediate impact before a single operative steps foot near the target. The pre-attack surveillance phase can run for weeks or months, with operatives or inspired actors conducting stationary observation, drive-bys, and casual questioning to map guard rotations, crowd patterns, and entry and exit points, meaning the planning is well underway long before any alert reaches law enforcement. Every location on that target list has been chosen not for randomness, but for calculated disruption, with the goal of making ordinary American life feel permanently unsafe. The church, the school run, the Saturday morning at the grocery store are not coincidences. They're doctrines. Survival Dispatch News Guardians are getting early warning indicators tied to these events in real time, not days later on the news, for 33 cents a day. And here we go again. I swear to God, I'm going to kill the Amazon guy for showing up the second that I start my podcast every single stinking night.
Realize it, for it. What I do is I order stuff in your name, have it sent to your house. It's probably just napkins or something cheap. I just do it to screw with you.
Leave it to the CIA guy. That's like down.
It's a psyop, man.
You kill me. But Jeff, let's jump right in with the first question here. Walk us through the actual phases of jihadi target selection. So initial evaluation stage through final target lock. What does that cycle look like in practice?
Well, the first thing they have to do is decide what their objective is. Is it to disrupt society? Is it to create panic? Is it, there's different objectives, and different targets will result in different objectives. There's going to be overlap, of course. But if you're just trying to scare the hell out of people, you go after churches or schools or things like that. If you're just trying to create that mass terror and panic, if you're trying to disrupt the economy, then you go after the electric grid substations. You do things that is going to cause businesses to shut down, that kind of thing. So once you've decided what your objective is, then you start selecting targets that will achieve those goals. If you're just wanting pure terror, they've got these, the coordinated the coordinated attack thing going on, which is, for them, it's just, a smart move if that's, given what they want to achieve. But when you've got lone actors, if you've got small cells, they may be on their own as far as target selection go. They may not have a directive to say, go attack this target or this type of target. They may just have a directive that says maximize chaos. And it could literally be anything. So once you decide what you want, you start casing. You go by casually, you take pictures. You don't want to go so often that you develop a pattern of being there, that you start to stand out. If you've got a cell, you have one person do it the one time, the next day it's a different guy, the next day it's a different guy. So that way people aren't noticing. If it's me, okay, they're going to say, okay, we see this old gray-haired dude and he's here every day. Well, if it's me one day and then it's Mike Glover the next, then there's this young, fit, Asian looking guy. Okay, well, we're not the same person, so no one's going to put two and two together. So they're going to want to diversify their casing and collect data and then confirm each other's casing too. One of them's going to say, I saw this for security, I saw this for police presence. Next one goes, okay, I didn't see that, but I did see this and I did see that. And then they want to collate that data and figure out, okay, how's the best way to attack that target? Or do you attack that target? If it's too hard, you may find another easier target.
It's amazing how sophisticated it is. Quick question, Jeff. When you mentioned Mike Glover and, of course, J.J. Carroll, is it helpful when you have operatives that take the Brotox, makes them look 10 years younger than they actually are?
Absolutely. Because they've got the experience of an old fart, but they look like a young, naive guy.
Man, I take that as an absolute compliment because I'm 100% natural, but thank you.
100% natural. That's what the girl at the strip club said too.
Oh my God.
Guys. You know what? I don't come off of work on Friday evening to take this abuse.
Well,
yes, you did.
Oh my God, it kills me. Khalid, it's good to see your avatar. We were worried about you this week from not hearing from you. Let me go to you with the second question. Then JJ, I'm coming straight to you with the third question. But Khalid, give us some insight here. When we're talking about vulnerability as a selection criteria, what specific factors are these networks actually measuring when they look at a soft target location?
Well, when you're talking about soft targets, I mean, there's such a wide range of things they can attack, from shopping malls to schools to churches, transportation hubs. What they're looking for is the amount of foot traffic that goes through that location, the amount of psychological damage that can be done by attacking that location, and how much security they have to deal with to get through it. If you take, for example, Mumbai as a point of view, every point that the Mumbai attackers attacked up until the hotel was no security at all. They went through and slaughtered people without ever running into a police officer. When they got to the hotel, they did the same thing there, and they took over the hotel in very quick fashion. We always talk about a 15-minute saturation cycle. From the first shot, you have 15 minutes to neutralize the attacker. Otherwise, you are on the back foot and you have lost. They will take a strategic position, and you won't be able to fight them off. So when you're talking about soft targets, the biggest soft target that these jihadis are looking for is churches and schools, because that's the biggest psychological impact. Hitting you where your faith is, hitting you where your children are. That's where they're going to hit you the first in the beginning, and that's the first target. I mean, in Pakistan, that's what they've hit the most here in our country, is mosques and schools.
Yeah, so just a quick reminder, and Cleed's mentioned this many times, when the terrorists in Afghanistan, which is home base for almost all of them now, they use Pakistan as the test bed. They attack something in Pakistan, then they go outside of the Middle East and maybe Europe and then America, sort of thing. But JJ, symbolic value obviously is a major driver in target selection. I mean, just look at the World Trade Centers, right? How does an enemy determine that a church or a shopping center has enough symbolic weight to make the list, like to make the cut?
I think it's just how much maximum damage you can do. And then what does that, so let's say we've talked about this. What if you just took 10 cities, big and small? It doesn't have to be all New York City, LA. It could be Birmingham, Alabama. And you blow up 5 churches and 5 malls. You just blow them up. And there's, 10,000 people dead, 1,000 people dead. I think that psychologically would be so impactful that America would shut down. It would just shut down. No one would go out. Everyone would be afraid. And I think that's what they're looking for. I would like to ask Khalid the question, what does he think that Iran will do if they get to the point where they feel as if they're going to become Gaza? What do you think they'll lash out at America?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Khalid.
JJ, we know. Okay, I'm gonna put this out there. The 4 days I've been missing, the 5 days I've been missing, I've been inside of 3 countries in the past 4 days. What we have learned is that not only are there roughly 75 to 100 Iranian sleeper cells operational inside the United States, but ISIS is planning a massive attack on churches on Easter. And they have put out a complete guide. Iran understands that their best attack model is asymmetric. They cannot win a conventional war.
Right.
So the best way they can hit you is with an asymmetric attack. When you've got 75 to 100 sleeper cells inside the United States, pre-programmed with conditions that when condition 1 is hit, you go after these targets. When condition 2 is hit, you go after these targets. When condition 3 is hit, you go after these targets. When condition 4 is when Iran is decimated, you go after all of these targets. They already have this system in place. They're not waiting for a call from the Middle East to tell them go. They already have a condition list to go off of. If this happens, for example, the U.S. hits the Iranian energy infrastructure, you're going to see attacks inside the United States as retaliation for that.
Sorry, Cleet, I was off on another page trying to get something queued up. So, Jeff, just curious what your thoughts are, and I know you have some experience with this. How long does this pre-attack surveillance phase actually need, and on average? And how long before you think that law enforcement stands any chance of even remotely becoming aware of it? Because it sounds to me that it's virtually impossible to figure this out unless they pick up some communications.
Well, or the terrorists are not good at their job. You should be able to do that kind of casing, that kind of a target assessment without being really blatantly obvious. Now, if you have the same guy who goes back every day for 2 weeks, might get noticed. But
let me ask you a quick question. Do you remember Al Buyami, who did the casing video in Washington, D.C. before 9/11?
In DC, the one in DC?
Yes.
I don't remember the video.
Just let me quick aside here, and Khalid's aware of this. I don't know if JJ's aware of it, but I want to get your thoughts on it because it's directly germane to this. Sorry to cut you off, but it's really, really germane. So al-Bayami he's a member of the Saudi Arabian government, okay? And what his position has been up for debate, that doesn't matter. What does matter is that in 1999 and 2000, he was traveling around the United States. He was on a visa. He was facilitating the basics for the attackers, like somewhere to live and money and food and all these things, right? So he's in Washington, D.C., and he's in front of the U.S. Capitol, and he's saying, okay, I'm on, the east side, west side, whatever. You'll notice that there's exits here, here, and here. And then he hands his camera to just some random stranger and asks if they can film him. And so now he's got the Capitol building behind him, and he's speaking in Arabic. So the person filming has no idea, and he's all chummy with him. Thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. The FBI had that video 10 days after 9/11. And where it came from was the Metro Police Service, the MPS in Great Britain, and they had sent it to the FBI. The FBI went against court orders to release that information to the families who were trying to sue the Saudi Arabian government over this stuff. But the MPS, the Metro Police Services, gave it to the families. Then it ended up in the hands of the media. It's some of the most chilling video you could ever watch. But my point is this, if you haven't seen it, what I just described, is there anything there that would strike you as a red flag? Because for me, when I watch it, yes, it's chilling after the fact, but before the fact, it's just some guy with a foreign accent having a video of him taken with the Capitol building.
Well, especially if it's an area that's a tourist area.
Correct.
How many people took video of the World Trade Center every day before it was blown up? Probably hundreds. They took photos. I've been up in the World Trade Center. The guy next to me could have been casing the thing. And that's if you're going after a target. Now, it's one thing if it's a church in some sleepy neighborhood somewhere, and that no one ever goes to. You might go, why is that guy filming the church? That's more likely to draw attention because it's unusual. Someone standing in front of a public building with a selfie, going, hey, look at this or look at these, every day. And unless you know what they're thinking, or in that guy's case, what he was saying in Arabic, how is that any different from the other 500 tourists who did the same thing that day? I've been to Egypt. I've took pictures of the Egyptian Museum. I took pictures of the Sphinx and the pyramids and all that. Along with, there are thousands of other people doing the same thing. But they had also had terrorist attacks down there. And they had the tourism police were actually military soldiers in the back of pickup trucks that hid in the oleanders waiting for terrorists to jump out. There was a high threat there. But, anyone could have cased that place. And no one would be able to say a thing. Especially if you have a member of your cell who doesn't look like, say, your standard Middle Eastern male. What if you got a white female to take those photos?
Hey, Khalid, I'm going to bump you to after JJ because I've got a couple questions and you can clean up on this segment. JJ, though, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm assuming that during your 24 years working on the border that you developed an instinct for when somebody was bullshitting you or potentially was a criminal or nefarious purposes or whatever. Is there anything that you can think of in the scenario that Jeff just laid out that you would key in on? And I'm granted, you're not the average person. You got, over 24 years of law enforcement experience. But is there anything you can point out that maybe our audience could benefit from as far as behavior that just doesn't look right?
Yeah, well, one of the problems with dealing with criminals are they're used to BSing. So when I'm dealing with people that I just met, like I'm having my encounter with them, my immediate go-to is I don't believe anything that anyone's saying. But you can't go through life, right? You can't go to a grocery store like that. You can't go to the mall like that. You'll lose your mind. But what I would say to people is, if something seems weird, don't even question it. Like, God built that inside you. You have this mechanism that God built, just like an animal have a fight or flight. You have the same thing. So if some dude or some woman's taking pictures and acting strange, or they're taking pictures of foundations or looking under a bridge, and I mean, and taking pictures, like, if it sticks out, it sticks out for a reason. But also, and I'm sure Jeff can and Khalid can go to this, they're not just sending out their dumbest people. That's like sending that when the border was open for 4 years, the CCP didn't send the People's Republic Army. They didn't send their boots in there, did they? They sent their most seasoned guys. So it's not like you're going to get a bunch of yahoos that are trainees that are being trained to be terrorists or trained to be PLA soldiers. They're going to send their best guys in. They're not going to send their JV team. They're going to send in their varsity that knows how to play this game, has been trained to do this. So it's going to become harder and harder and harder to identify. And now when the demographics of the United States of America has been completely flipped on its head in the last 15 years, what's normal anymore, guys? What's the baseline, right? We lost over 20% of the white population percentage-wise in America, and we brought in 15 years, and we brought in tens of millions of people from the third world and Central America. And what's the norm? I guess that's the bigger question. Is, as a guy that's in law enforcement, I've been driving around. I don't see the America that I grew up in. I see something that does not even resemble normalcy. So what is, maybe that's a bigger question, what is now the new normal to what we gauge what is abnormal, right? That's how chaotic our world is now.
Man, you raise a good point. For many years, JJ, people would ask me, because I've spent my adult life back and forth between North Texas and Central Florida, what the differences are, so on and so forth. And I would argue that for many years, there's been no Florida culture per se. It depends where you are in the state, right? So Tampa, Sin City, South Florida, a lot of Cubans. If you're in the Panhandle, believe it or not, there's a ton of agriculture and stuff. But I would always say in Texas, Texas has a very strong culture that goes, from one side of the state to the other. And that's no longer the case because of what you're describing. A quick question for you, JJ. There was a number floated a couple years ago that 30,000 CCP operatives came across the southern border. Is that a reasonably, is it directionally accurate? Is it too small, too big? No.
The people that I talked to that say that's easily over 100,000.
Holy crap.
Okay, I'm going to go off. I don't have the number in the top of my head. This is going to be like within 10 to 20, okay? So less than 1% off. Donald Trump's last year in office, I believe the Border Patrol, we arrested 1,940. 1,940. That's it. We did almost 200,000. 200,000 just in Joe Biden's 4 years. 200,000. And that's what we know about. And there are guys like Muckraker and guys that I don't know him personally, but I know people that know him, and that whole conglomerate of guys that were taking the train of death all the way from Central America. The Chinese didn't take the train of death. And Michael Yon says they don't take the dangerous jungle path. No, they fly in to Central America, and then they got bused or flown up to Mexico, and then they came through. Well, why did they do that? I have pictures and pictures and pictures and videos after video after video of people that you're looking at in line that are Chinese, and you're like, well, that's a soldier. That's a soldier. And I had a good friend of mine that I did a podcast with, Brian O'Shea, said, wait a minute, pause. I'll never forget this. He goes, stop the video right there. He goes, that's their sergeant. I said, well, how do you know? He goes, look at the way he's standing. He's not standing with them. He's standing looking at them. It's like we're so ingrained in law enforcement and in military. We're so ingrained that we don't even know the mannerisms that we're doing. We think it's like normal, but it's abnormal. The way we move and the way we stand and how we look, it's very different. So that idea that 30,000 Chinese nationals from the PLA, that's absurd. We are over. And I've talked to people with all the letters like Jeff behind their name, and they say over 100,000. They feel comfortable saying that out loud.
It's a staggering number. So 2 quick comments, and then I'm going to pass it over to Euclid. Number 1, our good friend Tony Blauer is fond of saying pretty much every single person who survived sudden violence went on to say something didn't feel right before the attack happened, but the person ignored it, right? We're the only living beings that will ignore that inner voice that says there's a problem here. He also likes to say, you know, what's a cat do when it sees a dog? It instantly reacts and it runs away. It trusts its gut instinct. Why don't we do that more often? So anyway, with that being said, Khalid, I got a couple questions for you. The first one is, what role does the media play in target selection criteria? Like, are they the bad guys consciously picking stuff in Pakistan, for example, where they know that they'll get more coverage versus if they chose a different target?
Yeah. The media doesn't play a big role. What they're watching is specifically movement of high value individuals, whether it be a businessman, whether it be a politician, whether it be a celebrity. If someone's going to be in that area, they're going to draw a lot of people around them. And once they draw those people around them, they become a very easy target. That's the first thing. When you watch the media will show you where big events are happening. And those big events give these terrorists a very clear picture of where their target selection can change and where they can deliver a maximum result for their own group. The problem is, it's JJ alluded to this. We're not most of the people on the border, most of the people in the airports don't understand what they're looking for because they don't know what a terrorist looks like. And the reason that we keep saying that, the GWAT guys need to do this training is because they've seen them. They understand what they look like. They understand the mannerisms. They understand the behavioral patterns, and they can pick them off standing in line in an airport. The problem that I see with the U.S. right now is that everyone's still saying, well, nothing can happen, nothing can happen, nothing can happen. And we can see it like a pressure cooker. The pressure and the threat is building in the U.S. Once it blows, there's no coming back from it. There's literally no coming back from it. So it's something that people need to understand, that the media is not, your friend when they keep telling you nothing's going on, nothing's going to happen. There is a huge target on the U.S. right now. And to understand how that target is going to be handled, I don't understand what the government is doing. I honestly don't.
Neither do we, Khalid. So I'll let you take the final question here, and we'll wrap up segment 1 on this note. From an intelligence standpoint, Khalid, what are the observable indicators that a location has moved from broad evaluation phase into, active pre-attack surveillance?
Well, the easiest way to understand it is when you see people on a regular basis casing an area, and then they start walking inside and they start roaming around inside the building, trying to get a better understanding of how the inside of that building is laid out, where the doors are, where their escape routes are. And when you see people starting to take pictures inside of buildings, that's when you know that a target has been selected. The outside, you're going to see people roaming around and taking video and taking pictures of everything. But once they start moving inside, you realize at that point that the target has been finalized. Now they're looking for escape routes. Now they're looking for infiltration routes. They're looking for ways, if they get attacked or if there's a police response, where they can stage a hostage siege. The mentality changes at that point. I'll give you an example. The guy that walked into the school in Texas in full military, armed gear, full tactical gear, and you've got to wonder, what was he doing inside there? Because not only did he walk in, but 2 days later he was released on bail. And you've got to wonder, how can you let somebody like that go without a proper questioning, without a proper interrogation? Again, I just spent four days in numerous countries. We spent more time interrogating people than we did, doing BFEs. And the reason for the interrogation was to understand where people were, because Pakistan on Saturday was hit with 11 CCTAs, complex coordinated terror attacks inside of one province. 11 cities were hit on Saturday. And we were called in, and we were literally put on a plane and flown to that province and we were briefed and said, go into Afghanistan and find these guys. And we need to know where they are and who's supporting them. The US is not doing the same thing. You're catching people that are terrorists. They have intention of creating violent situations. You're not questioning them. You're not getting to the point of understanding what their mentality is, what their objective was, and you just let them go. And it's like you're telling the terrorists, "Oh, come on, it's okay. We're ready. Go ahead, take it. Go ahead and attack us."
Wow, it's just really sobering. Give us the Cliff Notes version on the CCTAs that just happened in Pakistan, Khalid, and then we'll move on.
11 attacks, all on civilian targets, on mining stations, Chinese investments, government locations, schools. Thank God that we are in the state of mind of war right now. The CCTAs were neutralized within 5 minutes and 10 minutes of the attack starting. So the damage was controlled. But what it gave us an understanding of is because this is our second CCTA in 2 months. The last one was 6 cities. We understand that there is now a test run being carried out inside of Pakistan for a Western country, because the targeting that was done, the way the attack was carried out, the kind of weaponry they used, what the bodies were found with after we took them out of the game, it was all Western weaponry. They were all NATOized. And we understand from the people we interrogated over the past 4 days that the target is a Western country. And this was a practice run.
Let me throw something out here for JJ and Jeff. I promise we'll get out of the first segment after this, but I want to hear both of your thoughts. Jeff first, then JJ. Is there even such a thing as NATO anymore? I mean, the French just voted against us at a UN security meeting. They voted with the Chinese and the Russians, and then an hour later, their ships were let through the Strait of Hormuz, which means they cut a deal with Iran.
Yeah, well, no, with friends like France, who needs enemies, but NATO will only exist if Europe gets attacked. They don't. Yeah, and for all intent and purposes, I think NATO is dead. And as an American taxpayer, I say good riddance. They are, of marginal value. You notice that when it's a war they approve of, like say Ukraine, they're all in and they are very happy to take America's money. But when it's something that we feel strongly about, they're like, yeah, sorry, no, we're not going to do that. So yeah, I think they definitely cut a deal with the Iranians, and France has a long history of this. And when it was Iraq, I don't know if people remember Jacques Chirac, who was the president of France. His nickname was Jacques Iraq because he was in bed so deep with Saddam Hussein's regime and was taking kickbacks and getting all kinds of money. The Iraqi regime had people in governments, allies in governments all through Europe. There was a company in Switzerland. It was called H&H Metal Form. It made flow forming machines that made nose cones for ballistic missiles. Well, the joke was it was HH and H, and the other H was Hussein, because those were prescribed items, but they were selling them to the Iraqis. So the Europeans are only our friends when it's in their interest to be our friends.
Yeah, amen to that. So JJ, I haven't got your blood pressure up now. Here's your shot to do it. They've screwed us over for years, and now they're stabbing us in the back. What do you think of NATO and the Europeans?
I think that I am. I know this is a dirty word, but I'm an isolationist. America used to be completely self-sufficient. We didn't need anybody. What's happened to America? We were the breadbasket to the world. We did all the iron and steel. We did everything. we need to get back to that. We need to become completely and utterly self-sufficient in every single way that we can. Donald Trump was doing it with the tariffs and everything else he was doing, and I applaud him for that. But he sidetracked. And why are we giving all of our money, time, talent, and treasure, and our men, our young boys, why are we giving them to NATO? Why are we playing this game that everything is wonderful? And if I hear one more time, well, you know what, we need this because that keeps America safe. And oh, really? So you're telling me in the last, say, 50 years, you feel like America's been safe? You, as they rebuild everything in NATO and the European countries, our infrastructure is garbage. Our highways, everything is destroyed. Or we've lost our 10,000, 20,000 young men and women. We've had hundreds of thousands maimed beyond recognition. Not even talking about the mental problems that we have in our country because of the warriors going to war 10, 11, 12 times. When are we going to finally just say, screw everybody, and this is about America? And I will say this, I'll end with this, Chris. If someone rose up, not a Trump, like somebody that wasn't a carnival, like a circus that around him, just a very strong, charismatic, very righteous man, and that man just stood up and said, when I'm elected, I will do everything in my power to not send one dime out of our country. We are going to solely focus on our home, and that's it. And I'm going to eradicate our country of all these people that are here illegally, and we're going to focus on America. I bet you 75 to 80% of Americans would vote for that person. Democrat and Republican. That's how sick I believe our country is now. We're so tired of what we've been led to and propagandized to help the whole world as we crumble.
I honestly, I swear to God, I'm going to get us out of the first segment into the second one. But you touched on something, JJ, that I got to share, and I got to get you all up on this other stage here. Looks like I just got to get Cleed up.
Oh, boy.
So I don't know if Jeff knows about this. I know Cleed doesn't, okay? So JJ made a post, a good post. You know, he doesn't want his son going to foreign countries and dying for somebody else. And it got 5 million views in the blink of an eye, like on X, super fast. So this guy comes out of nowhere and takes a swing at me, at Brando X, and says, if you continue supporting this guy and Israel's the reason for the evil in the world views, and that's not what JJ said, by the way. He was talking in terms of Zionists. They're not the same thing. And continue to have them on your platforms. My family and I will cancel our Guardians accounts ASAP. He continues to go down the direction of Candace Owen, et cetera, tired. And I just simply stated, hey, look, man, like, you don't get to tell me who I can and cannot have on my podcast. JJ's a personal friend of mine. Go ahead and cancel. I mean, if you're not adult enough to agree to disagree with someone else, I don't really want those types of people in our community. So this guy's response was, well, bye and fuck you, you traitor piece of shit. So I said my normal thing. I said, say it to my face, tough guy. And he immediately said, we're coming for you. And just as I went to screenshot it, he blocked me. And then 30 seconds later, he deleted his entire X account. JJ,
it was a bot.
JJ, once again, while he had a bunch of followers and stuff, who knows? But here you go again, JJ, stir shit up. You know,
well, I will say this, and I want the audience to know this, that I was on 2 platforms prior, and I knew they were going to be short-lived. They were both very good platforms, good people working for them. I get along with them real well. I still do to this day, well, except for a cutout. But I was told, and I knew this was going to happen, that I couldn't talk about certain things. And of course, I just talked about certain things, and I knew they're short-lived. And then Chris told me, because I met him through an interview, and he says, whenever you want to come and join my platform, I can. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I think it's time, but I have to be able to talk about everything I want to talk about, because that's just how I am. I'm not going to censor myself, and I'm not going to have anyone. And he goes, no, you can say whatever you want. And when this came out, you know how you post stuff, you don't really think it, you don't know if it's going to, I don't even know. I don't post stuff thinking, how many views am I going to get? I just post stuff. And then with, like you said, within 24 hours at 5 million, I'm at 6 point something million views. And it was radioactive, right? It was either you're absolutely right, or you are not a patriot. And Chris showed me that, and Chris stood up and said, no, go pound sand, go F off, take your money, get out. I'm not doing that to him. And I that was very refreshing, Chris, because I haven't had that before. I was pushed out of my last platform because I was talking about Israel, not even talking about it, like just asking the question, is this happening? Should we look at this? And they were like, I think it's time for you to go. And I'm like, holy smokes. I just asked a question. I didn't even make a determination. So I want your audience to understand that I do appreciate that, and you are a man of your word, and you didn't buckle. Where a lot of people would get nervous and say, "Okay, he needs to go," or we can't talk about certain things.
Well, watch this, JJ. Jeff, do you and I agree on everything across the board?
Oh, hell no. If we did, I would have no respect for you, because that would mean you're just as dumb as I am.
Well, I mean, obviously, Jeff is incredibly intelligent. There's a handful of things we don't agree on, but if you have any type of friendship or relationship with somebody and you can't agree to disagree, you don't really have a friendship or a relationship at the end of the day.
I don't agree with my wife on everything.
Well, that's because you're a cantankerous old baby boomer.
True. Like, get off my lawn.
JJ, this is your chance to take a shot back at him for the bro dogs.
Oh gosh, you know what? I'm just hoping some Botox company says, "Hey, I like to maybe be a sponsor for a show. Let's just do it. Whatever we got to do."
That's too funny.
You're limited to the one whose product you actually use.
What's great is I'm just natural, so I can be anybody. To me, it's like,
oh my god!
But hey,
this is one of those things we're going to have to disagree on.
Listen, I you know what? I know this is a side topic, but I just want to say this
Go
because
ahead.
it was surreal when you criticize. Like I'm not like a Vietnam anti-Vietnam War guy where I'm like, you're a baby killer and our guys are murderers. No, I love the military. I love law enforcement, obviously. When I post stuff like that, I'm talking about, hey, I don't want those men and women that I think are my brothers and sisters to be sent to a war that I don't agree with. But it's amazing when you just say that, you're unpatriotic. You're anti-Trump. You're this, you're that. And I'm just like, wow, how fast do people turn on you when you don't agree 100%? And you're just making the statement, how many more of these? And I know we all don't agree with what I'm saying, but my perspective is how many more of these wars, how many more times we're going to do the same damn thing and be shocked when we get the same result. So it's amazing though, how fast, quote, the MAGA people will attack you. They will just go after your jugular. And I love this, like Cat Turd. The guy's got like 10 million people on X. He comes and says, well, JJ's a pussy and this and I'm like, okay, can we just time out here for a second? And then guys like JJ never voted for Trump. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's just the propaganda and the lies. It's so unbelievable. But how fast, quote, people on your side will turn on you, like the people did with you, that are subscribers, that you're a Nazi and you're this or that. It's just, we live in wild times.
Well, I mean, I swear to God, we're going to get into the second segment here. But for Jeff and Khalid, I'll throw this out there. I'm trying to think of the best context to put it in, but you know what? I'm going to take us into segment 2 because as I think I'm looking at segment 2 right here, it'll dovetail nicely into that. So let's get into segment 2 just because we need to get into segment 2. So the entry pipeline, how the threat gets inside the wire. The open border era created a documented and largely unquantified intake of special interest aliens, military-age males from countries with active jihadi networks who were processed, released, and absorbed into the American interior with minimal vetting and zero ongoing surveillance. The ideological pipeline that feeds domestic radicalization does not require physical border crossing. ISIS and Al-Qaeda in particular operate sophisticated online recruitment and target guidance operations that convert Americans already inside the country into operational assets through encrypted platforms and social media. The 2026 annual threat assessment from DNI Gabbard confirmed at least 15 disrupted Islamic plots on American soil in 2025 alone, which means law enforcement's running a sustained counter operation against a pipeline that is actively generating new actors faster than it can be cut off upstream. And again, these threats are evolving faster than the headlines, and Survival Dispatch News Guardians are seeing these shifts early for less than 33 cents a day. So per usual, Jeff, I'm coming straight to you. How many of the gotaways do you reckon from the Biden installation were realistically assessed as potential threat actors? There's got to be some sort of gap in there. And I'm curious what you think, how big that is. I'm also curious what your thoughts are as far as ongoing efforts to locate, identify, and interdict them.
I think your biggest threats are probably going to be among the gotaways. Okay, if you're sending troops across, you get the Chinese or whoever, but they're coming across, they're not carrying anything, maybe they've got phony IDs or anything, but I mean, they're not carrying anything that's going to get them arrested. They don't have weapons, they don't have drugs. They can just say, I'm looking for a better life and I fear for my life back home, blah, 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 give me asylum. But if you got one who's carrying a weapon or who's carrying a bomb or who's carrying a computer that has the commo plans and the details of who you're supposed to contact and all that, he's going to be in your gotaways because he doesn't want to get wrapped up. So what they'll probably end up doing is they send 10 guys who are clean, quote unquote, clean through, tie up Border Patrol. And then when Border Patrol is hustling them off, then the guy who's carrying the important stuff sneaks across. You use the wide open border as your diversion to get your real stuff across. JJ can probably speak to that a hell of a lot better than I am. He's worked the border. But it would seem to me that would be the logical way to do it. You send a bunch of immigrants across to get Border Patrol tied up so you can get your real object across 10 miles down the road.
Well, quickly before I go to Khalid, JJ, I'm guessing during 24 years, you probably saw something like that happen. Maybe give us an anecdotal example.
No, Jeff is 100% correct. That's exactly what happened. And it happened for 4 years under Joe Biden. When you have 5,000, 10,000 illegal aliens hanging out under a bridge or across the border and just sitting there, it takes every single Border Patrol agent to go there and manage it. So at the same time, you were like my buddies tell me, we have no idea how many getaways. Is it 3,000 in a shift or is it 30,000? We have no idea every single day. They go, we don't have any concept of how bad it is because we are all completely tied up. And that's what happened. We were processing 12 million people and releasing 12 million people in 4 years. And then another 18 million crossed the border undetected, abscond. You were listening to Donald Trump came out just yesterday and said the real number of people that crossed the border in 4 years is now 25 million. That's up from 12 million. He's finally catching up to real time. He's still about 5 to 10 million shy of the real number. But Jeff is 100% correct. That's exactly what happened. I witnessed it.
Wow. It's crazy. So, Khalid, this online radicalization pipeline, Jeff and I have been discussing it all week. So I'm going to give you a question from one of our previous episodes, just so I can get your take on it. So nobody's crossing the border. This is all being done online. How does that change the equation for law enforcement, Khalid? I mean, Jeff and I have discussed this ad nauseum. I'm going to let you say your piece without even telling you what we said.
Well, if we've got a report coming out probably next week on the sheer amount of terrorist activity that went on on the online platforms. The problem you've got is law enforcement doesn't understand how to interdict the different types of platforms that are being used, from gaming platforms to chat platforms to even veterans platforms. I mean, the platforms that vets are on, They are monitoring those platforms, looking for people that are disaffected and upset with the way that things are going in the US, and they're motivating them from there into encrypted platforms where they turn them into assets. And they could be an asset in the terms of, just do surveillance without carrying out an attack. And some are turned into people that will actually carry out an attack for these terror groups. The problem law enforcement has, and I think it's called Project USA, is what they're using right now to try and interdict the online activities that these terror groups are doing. You don't have enough resources on it, and as long as the federal government doesn't take this seriously, you don't get more resources added to it. And the failure rate right now of what we know, it takes 7 conversations to get someone from a slightly disaffected into an encrypted channel where an ISIS or an Al-Qaeda operative is teaching them how to become more active and in the way they can show how pissed off they are at the U.S. The problem, Chris, is that I could literally teach a course to law enforcement on how to pick these people off and understand how to fight this battle. But everybody we've talked to has said, this problem doesn't exist. And I've spoken to a number of people, federal agencies, and all of them go, well, we don't believe the threat exists in the U.S. I'm going, okay, isn't that what we said before 9/11 happened? That nothing was going to happen? And they're like, well, that was just a chance encounter. I said, yeah. The chance encounter that's coming right now, because if you're looking at what's going on in Pakistan, they're testing everything here. 2 complex coordinated attacks, 6 cities, now 11 cities. They're getting ready to hit something big in the US. And you guys are saying nothing's going to happen. I really don't know what to do from this side of the world, because if I was standing in front of you, I'd probably punch you in the face and go, have you lost your damn mind?
Okay, Chris, can I ask him a question? What do you think they're going to hit, Khalid?
Well,
if you had to make it, if I made you make a decision right now and say you have to put your month's salary on what are they going to target us? I'm very curious.
All right, let me run you through the target list that we put together here at Command 11. The Capitol building, the White House, CIA headquarters, that's DC. In New York, we're expecting them to hit a football stadium or a basketball arena. And they're not going to hit the World Trade Center again, because that one's already been done. Then they're going to move into the Midwest. They're going to hit industrial targets inside the Midwest. On the West Coast, they're going to hit infrastructure and Silicon Valley. Texas is refineries, and Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida is all tourist locations. That's the list we've put together here at Command 11 based on what we've been able to interrogate people for, and get details out of them. The target number they're looking at right now, JJ, is 100,000 deaths. That's the number they're shooting for.
Dude, if they did 10% of that, the whole America would shut down.
100%. 100%. I just want to quickly throw something out there for our audience, just because some of you may not be aware of it. When we quote intelligence coming out of the Middle East, it's firsthand. It comes directly from Khalid. Last year, his guys infiltrated over 80 of 120 terrorist camps in Afghanistan. And when Khalid says this is what our intelligence is coming out of these interdictions, this is firsthand information. This is not from a friend of a friend of a friend.
I was actually doing interrogations this past week. We were catching people and interrogating them this whole entire week. So we got a lot of clear pictures this past week.
And wow. I know that, which is why I use that specific word. But JJ, coming back to you, like 24 years CBP, what does this category special interest alien mean? Like we always say, it's highly suspect individuals, either part of a terrorist group or somehow related to a terrorist group. But give me the law enforcement officer's version of an SIA.
Special interest alien is anyone coming from a terrorist country or traveling through a terrorist country, and that is special interest alien. So the United States Border Patrol arrested over 250,000 in 4 years. In my 24-year career, I had contact with less than 5.
Holy shit.
and I was a high producer in the trenches nonstop. What Joe Biden did is he let in a probability of 250,000 terrorists. I would be very confident to state in front of Congress that there's 1 million terrorists in America. And I'm talking high level, which my buddies in Imperial Beach, California station arrested the head ISIS recruiter and one of the head Afghan military generals right there in the same spot, like 2 or 3 weeks between each other. I would tell you, from the lowest level carrier, messenger, courier, terrorist to a major general and ISIS recruiter, there's 1 million of them in our country in 4 years that Joe Biden let go. Because my buddies were telling me, they sent me pictures and videos of 1,500 at a time sitting on our side of the border on a place called Spooner's Mesa. 1,500. They would process 500 a day, and then the cartels would push over another 500. So there was a sitting group of single adult military-age men, all from the continent of Africa and the Middle East, sitting in American soil on just one Border Patrol station, not the other, 100, just one. And that was 1,500 a day. And every single day, 50 of those 500 they brought into the station, 50 of them would hit the terrorist watch list. And they were able to make a determination that at least 5 were. And I said, what did you do with the other 45? And they said, you won't believe it. We released them into America. That's what our government did.
I got to throw this up on screen quickly so nobody thinks that JJ is, throwing out hyperbole. Check this out. That's a picture of JJ testifying in front of Congress with regards to child sex trafficking. When JJ says, I would testify in front of Congress, it's not him trying to make himself look big. He's already done it. He's been in front of Congress. And he's described it to me as one of the worst things he's ever had to experience, and that he'd never do it again. Right?
Never do it again. I had an illegal alien from Guatemala. Her name is Dalia Ramirez. Her mother crossed the border when she was pregnant with her, dumped her on the border, had a baby, and she's now claimed birthright citizenship, and she is now trying to defund ICE. If I ever run into her, I will arrest her fat Guatemalan ass and deport her immediately. I have to leave on that note because my Botox is melting a little bit. You got me all angry, and I hate you guys. You know that?
No, you don't. You love it.
You guys are slandering me. This is all natural. All natural.
I love it. All right. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you guys.
Great weekend.
Take care. Jeff, take care.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Everybody else, stick with us. We're not done. We're not even at the end of segment number 2 yet. So let me switch over to the other stage here. So, Jeff, the DNI assessment that just came out, they identified 15 disrupted plots during 2025. That seems like a really, really small number to me. What's your takeaways from that? 15.
Well, to a certain extent, I want to take them at face value. But the reason I don't think it's small, because if they hadn't disrupted, there would have been an attack. There would have been attacks. So if there were 30 planned and they disrupted 15, what happened to the other 15? So, they've disrupted, maybe they disrupted 15 that they know of, and the other 15 are still on hold, haven't been executed yet. All because something was disrupted in 2025 doesn't mean that it was intended to be executed in 2025. They could have said, they put guys over here today. It doesn't mean they're going to attack tomorrow. They could attack next year. They're trying to get situated. They're trying to get their cell established and to get it self-funding or wherever else they got to do. That doesn't mean those are the only plots out there. But had there been a plot and they didn't disrupt it, why wasn't the plot executed? But disrupting 15 doesn't mean there's only 15. It just means they only caught 15.
Yeah, it just seems like a small number to me. That's all. But regardless, I would just be speculating to speak further on that. Khalid.
One other thing, though, if they arrest a guy and they deport him for a violation of some sort, And he was part of a cell, but they didn't realize he was part of a cell. They have inadvertently disrupted that attack because maybe a key member of the cell has been deported. Now, we know Biden didn't do that. He never deported anybody. But, you can disrupt a cell without even knowing you're disrupting it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So, Khalid, wrap up segment 2 for us here. Tell us what the single most important vulnerability is in America's current counterterrorism posture that prepared Americans, need to understand and try to mitigate, or maybe they can't mitigate. I want to hear what you've got to say on that.
Well, the biggest problem you got is that there is no counterterrorism strategy at all in the U.S. The U.S. is trusting Syria and Afghanistan to vet who the terrorists are in the United States, and those are the people sending them to the United States. You think they're going to tell you who the terrorists are?
Expand on that.
Well, Jeff, nothing against you and your former association with the CIA, but the CIA is in bed with the Taliban, with GDI, which is the Taliban's intelligence agency. Whenever they need to check somebody out, they ask the Taliban whether this guy's a terrorist or not.
And that's stupid.
And that's stupid, yeah. And I'll give you another one. We just got word that Sirajuddin Haqqani has resigned as the interior minister. That's big on a couple of reasons. Number one, he has the most contact with Al Qaeda, ISKP, and Pakistan's Taliban. So him resigning because he's pissed off at the Kandahari leadership means that's going to be a lot of civil war inside of Afghanistan, and it could mean a step up in plans on attacks in Western countries, because Haqqani has done a really good, we call him the Pied Piper of Coast. He's done a really good job of convincing people that he is telling everybody the truth, and there's no terrorism problem in Afghanistan. There are no terrorists in Afghanistan, and the UN is wrong, and Pakistan is wrong, and everybody's saying there are terrorists there is wrong. With him out of the government, he becomes very dangerous because now he is going to be looking to establish himself as the key successor to the Taliban government. And he has been the number one guy that the U.S. has trusted on intelligence. So when you're asking terrorists whether this guy's a terrorist or not, that's just like asking somebody in prison whether this guy's a murderer or not. You've got the same problem in Syria, and Syria is a much bigger issue because they're issuing passports to known terrorists so they can fly into the United States on Syrian passports, on Libyan passports, on Tajik passports. You had all the ISIS fighters that were released from the Syrian prisons that have European passports already. I know about 20% of them have already entered the United States. The U.S. has no clue that they are there, and they have no clue that they are terrorists. And these are very senior commanders. So we see, again, I come back to the same thing. There is no counterterrorism strategy in the U.S. And the reason there's no counterterrorism strategy in the U.S. is because there's a dysfunction inside the cabinet. Tulsi Gabbard is apparently on her way out. Trump is getting ready to fire her as well. We saw Joe Kent leave. We have, I think, 3 generals were fired today from the Pentagon. You're losing people that know what they're doing, and that just makes the counterterrorism response much weaker. I'm really worried about where the U.S. is headed right now.
You're not the only person, Khalid. So let's pivot into segment number 3. The citizen response, hardening the soft target from the ground up. Pardon me. The doctrine of predictability is the enemy's greatest asset. So your consistent morning route, your fixed church pew, your weekly grocery run on the same day at the same time, all of it constitutes pre-attack intelligence for a surveillance operator who's mapping your environment. Active personnel security awareness is not paranoia. It's force multiplication, recognizing an anomalous behavior in familiar environments, varying routines where possible, and reporting suspicious surveillance activity to law enforcement is exactly the kind of community level friction that disrupts the pre-attack phase. The prepared American is not a helpless soft target. They're armed, situationally aware, legally covered through CCW Safe or whoever you use, and operating with a family extraction plan. This is a prepared American family, by the way, an extraction plan that doesn't rely on the assumption that the government will be there in the first 2 minutes to save you. And Khalid, I want to mention something that happened this week to Cindy and me that's right on point with this as far as, you know, the doctrine of predictability and breaking it up. So as most people know, I've had a bunch of death threats against me from jihadis in the past 6 months, not as many as Khalid gets, and nobody stabbed me in the abdomen like they did to Khalid. But we've had a number of really suspect encounters. We live in an upper middle class neighborhood, you know, on the outskirts of small town USA. Get this one in Euclid. Tuesday, I worked 20 hours, and Cindy and I walked the dogs at 11 p.m. And I just had this weird feeling that somebody was watching us. So I turn around, and here's this guy in a bicycle, maybe 200 yards behind us, and he's going so slow, he's weaving to keep the bike upright. So he gets up right on us, and Cindy says, "How you doing?" just to see what he would say. And he had a really strong accent, and I hit him with an LEP flashlight in the face. So this is a laser emitting phosphorus flashlight. So it basically puts 3,000 lumens into a little tiny spot like that. And it blinded him on the spot. And he rode off. That guy did not belong in our neighborhood at all, especially at 11 o'clock at night. And we've had a bunch of them lately. But that's the first one who's been Middle Eastern, Khalid, in about 2 months. It's been about 2 months since we saw the last Middle Eastern one. I tell you what, it made the hair stand up on both of our necks. It's pretty crazy. So anyway, I won't bore you anymore with that story. Jeff, tell me, what's a practical, personal counter surveillance actually look like for a normal American family doing their routine? What are the behaviors that they can undertake so that it makes it that much harder for the bad guys to target them if they are being targeted?
Well, if you're trying to detect surveillance, what you want to do is do it. And there's two methods. There's one, if there's a guy, trailing you and your kids, you may want him to know, he's back there. So he doesn't think he's getting away with things and he may bail. Okay. That's if maybe he's planning to attack you that day. And so that's when you kind of turn around to face them so that they go, oh crap, I've lost the element of surprise. This guy's not taking it. So maybe I'll just find another target. That's one. The other is if they're casing you, you want to figure out who they are or what they're doing, but you may not want them to know that you know. And if it's on foot or if you're in a car, you take a route that's logical so that it doesn't look like, it says that it looks like an SDR. It's called a surveillance detection route, and it looks like you're running errands, and you make turns, strategic turns, to the right, to the left, as you zigzag through a city. And when you want to look at the cars behind you, use your mirrors, don't burn them up, but use your mirrors, note the cars behind you, maybe even take some notes in your lap, and then you make a turn. Okay, who goes with you? All because they go with you doesn't mean they're surveillance, and all because they don't doesn't mean they're not surveillance either. But you go through a thing and you have multiple turns, and you keep looking at the vehicles that go with you, that turn with you. Now, if it's a professional surveillance team, they may take one turn with you and then they won't take the next, and then someone else, they have a thing called a bubble, and they roll the bubble, and another car gets behind you. But eventually, unless they've got 100 cars, you will cycle through all the vehicles, and one of the vehicles you saw early will be on you again late. So if you're driving across town, that's one thing. If you're a few blocks and you see the same car, okay, maybe he's just taking a different route to the same place. But if you see a car and then an hour later on the other side of town, you see the same car with the same driver, then you're like, that's not a coincidence. That's surveillance. And we call multiple sightings over time, distance, change of direction, and change of environment.
Yeah. Great. Or sorry, go ahead, Jeff. I thought
No, and it works the same way on foot. You do it on foot, except when you're walking, you do the same thing, and you make note of, when you turn, you take a glance through the, the side of your eye. You can use reflective surfaces, but you got to realize if you can see them in that reflective surface, they can see you too. So they can tell if you're eyeballing them in the reflective surface.
Yeah, fair enough. I mentioned earlier tonight that there was an incident in Orlando, or actually I think it might have been before we went live. So my wife was in the area of this, literally like minutes from this. So this afternoon, somebody reported, Khalid, that just because you weren't backstage with us at the beginning, there was a semi in Orlando going down I-4, and somebody reported that the guy was loaded up with explosives, Middle Eastern guy. They shut down I-4 in both directions. I-4 is like the highway to hell. It's the highest number of wrecks on any interstate in the country. And there's an update now that they ended up arresting this guy. And there's some pictures out there. I'll get to it in a little bit, but it definitely Middle Eastern. So a semi truck, basically, by the way, I counted 52 cop cars where they had I-4 shut down, 52. And so Cindy, my wife, she grew up on a farm in Sanford, Florida. So she knew all the back roads, managed to get home safely. There were other people that was saying it was going to take 99 minutes to get to the next exit, which was 1 mile down the road from where they were shut down. So that happened today. And I'll have more information on it either tonight or on Monday. But there's another one just happened in Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho. SWAT teams are surging the area near Simplot plant in Pocatello, Idaho, where there's an active shooter. So waiting to hear what comes out of that. Oh, and they've just released the name of the guy who's arrested in Florida. He's 49 years old. His name was Kelvin, Kelvin. So I'll keep everybody posted on that as more happens. But Jeff, how many pounds of ammonium nitrate did Timothy McVeigh use in Oklahoma?
Oh God, I can't remember how many. It was, it was a few hundred.
So that rail car that's been missing that disappeared in Wisconsin a couple of years ago, that was 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate. And I bet a dime to a dollar it's going to show up at some point in time. And, a truck like that was a full semi, 53-foot trailer. Can you imagine that thing loaded down with ammonium nitrate versus what Timothy McVeigh did? But anyway, Khalid, you mentioned mosques that there were. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, trying to figure out the size of the bomb. I was looking it up and gathering materials. Sorry, didn't need to. It looked like it was around 7,000 pounds.
Okay, John Curry says 4,800, 5,000. James says 5,000. So long story short, it doesn't matter. It's way short of the 60,000 pounds that's missing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and how does a rail car, 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate disappear? But Khalid, you mentioned that mosques, houses of worship, attacked in the recent CCTAs there in Pakistan. And there's some warnings as far as churches are concerned here in America over the Easter holiday or Easter weekend.
There's a full book out. They've released a full book on how to attack.
Right. So Keith Graves, personal friend of mine, and he's probably the premier subject matter expert in the entire country on church security. And we send people his way all the time. But I want to hear your thoughts, Khalid, because it just happened there with these attacks. How should a church security team, conduct a threat assessment for their facility? And what are the most common vulnerabilities that houses of worship typically fail to address?
Well, the biggest thing people don't think about is when the church is empty. It's not who comes in on Sunday. It's when that church is empty and when people can walk in and roam around that church without anyone taking note of them. If you're planning to carry out an attack, let's say if you're going to plant explosives, you can walk into a church on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and there'll be nobody inside the church. You can roam around and plant explosives in the bathroom and plant explosives under the pews and walk out without anybody even knowing what you were doing there. The problem is that, and it's the same thing we have here in Pakistan, there's no security on the days during the time there is no prayer going on. There is no security during the time when the church is not having their service. So that gives you a very big window to operate with. And Chris, you'll remember how many times I said, I am so scared of a semi truck being loaded with explosives and driving down the road and blowing up somewhere. That was one of the things that I kept saying with these illegals getting CDL licenses. Is they're there for something other than driving trucks. And this fear that we saw today in Florida with the guy apparently who people thought the entire semi was loaded with explosives. That's something we said, I don't know how many times on Survival Dispatch, that this is the fear that we've got. All these illegals have got CDL licenses. They have a bomb on wheels, and they can roll that into any city, any location, and detonate. And the kind of damage they can cause is unbelievable. But when you talk about churches, when a church is not in service, there is no security. There's nobody watching the doors. There's nobody watching the pews. Someone walks in and puts bombs underneath the pews and walks back out, or just uses the bathroom, goes into the office and asks a couple of questions and leaves. No one pays any attention to what he did before he was there. And the problem you got, again, the problem that exists in the US right now is complacency. It cannot happen here. So when you're talking complacency, you're going, oh, nothing can happen, so we don't need security. When you're talking at that level, you become a target very easily. And in Pakistan, again, we've been at war now for 25 years with terrorists. We have our situational awareness has gone well above 100% now. Chris, Jeff gave you literally the CIA playbook on how to play counterintelligence and counter surveillance. This is something we all have learned here, that you need to be well aware of what's going on around you, because there could be somebody that walks into an open market and has a suicide vest and detonates himself. We have learned that you are not safe anywhere. And as long as you're complacent about what's going on, you become a much bigger target.
Well, Khalid, number one, you caught me eating some Wasatch Wagyu. I'm in therapy for it, getting treated. Mike Glover and I are getting therapy for it because it's like crack cocaine. Let me show you something, and I want to hear your thoughts on it as well. So I don't know what it was. It's got to be dang near a year ago. You said to the audience that there's going to be women terrorists this time around.
Yep.
It's kind of like a newer thing. Maybe not so much there, but we'll be here. What happens if a little kid walks into somewhere wearing a suicide vest? And before anybody says I'm crazy, this video I'm going to show you is not AI, right? I picked it apart. Khalid, I want you to basically digest this after I play part of it. What language is that, by the way, Khalid?
That's Vani. He's Avani.
Okay, well, look, I don't know if you can translate this or not, but if you can, just tell me to stop.
Is that Dari?
No, it's Pushto.
Okay.
Da, dispia pe reka.
That's Dari.
Saro, tikrawa uite. Păi se bea ceata urcă. A? Mortă urcă. Mortă eu zoie că. Nu ne dinstă? Da. Da,
That's
Da
hashish.
poliția was.
Yeah, it's drugs. Yeah.
Yep, that's drugs.
Seriously? Wow, keep playing.
Da sadri chadar joda kari. Eu there da eu balbam tira was.
So, Khalid, this kid put that on himself, and the father thought it was funny. Obviously, they're teaching the kid that, you know, it's righteous to, you know, die for Muhammad or whatever.
No, it's not just. Let me catch you up, Chris.
Okay.
The Balochistan Liberation Army here in Pakistan has used female suicide bombers. They literally have 600 women they have trained to be suicide bombers. Al Qaeda and the Islam and ISKP have also developed a division of women that have been trained to be suicide bombers. Children are now being trained. I mean, we knew this from we've been to the camps. Kids are trained with weapons from the age of 7 and 8 years old. Handguns, then they move to rifles. They're slowly moved up the pattern. I mean, the speed at which jihadis are being created in the Middle East right now which would shock you. And it literally starts from and the biggest target they're after when it comes to kids is orphans. People that don't have someone that will ask what happened to them. So like when we had the earthquakes in Pakistan back in 2007, there were a number of orphans that came out of that. And all of them, sorry, not all of them, but roughly 35-40% of them turned into jihadis. They were taken straight to madrasas where, you know, they pay for food, they pay for clothing, and they train them on weapons, and they train them with that jihadi mentality. So by the time they turn 9, 10, 11, they're already ingrained with the ideology and they want to kill whoever comes along. We've seen this here in Pakistan without weapons, where people were driving around Karachi, and Karachi is probably one of the most modern cities of Pakistan, one of the most metropolitan cities of Pakistan, Karachi and Lahore. People were driving around literally accosting women in cars because they were not wearing a burqa. So this is the level it's gotten to here. And I'm sorry to say it this way, but your American mosques have done the same thing to kids there as well. You just haven't seen it yet.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. Jeff, when people see stuff like whether it's a video online like we just watched or something in real life, what's worthwhile calling, you know, the cops over to say, hey, I saw something, you know, it looks suspicious to me? And what other basic things should they capture before they call law enforcement? But where's the line between calling and them thinking that you're crying wolf versus having something legitimate? And what are the basic things they got to capture?
Well, I think you need as much detail as you can get. And if you're looking at an anomaly or a change in a pattern that is concerning, you better be able to describe what the pattern looked like before. Because if you said, yeah, I saw this guy, he came home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then they go knock on his door and he goes, yeah, I work the night shift. I work graveyard shift or swing shift. I get home, I get off work at 1 in the morning. Well, then you're going to look like an idiot. But if you can say, okay, the guy has routinely comes home every day, same time, mows his yard, does whatever. Now all of a sudden he's got comings and goings at 3 in the morning. Other people coming, these cars, this is what the cars look like. This is what the passengers and the drivers look like. You got to give them enough detail, and you got to have a before and an after, ideally. Now, if someone just moved into your neighborhood and it was a house that was empty before, and now they've got strange comings and goings at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, get a camera, get a security camera, point it in their direction. Preferably an infrared one, and document it. And then if you have to go to the cops, you can say, here, look at this. What does this look like to you? And let them make that determination. Because if it looks flaky to you, it probably looks flaky to them too.
Yeah, that's solid advice. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Khalid, I'm assuming that you've done this for families there in Pakistan. How is it, or I'm trying to think of the right words. What's a realistic approach for a family to put together an exfil plan or extraction plan, whatever the case may be, when they're somewhere in public that's maybe a large venue? So, maybe it's a concert or something like that, or a shopping center. Maybe they go to a big church. But what's a realistic approach for a family to plan? Oh, the shit's hitting the fan. We got to get out of here. What's that plan look like?
Well, the way we teach people, and I've done this for both law enforcement and for families. The way we teach people is the first thing you do when you walk into any location is look for exits. What's the easiest way out? The second thing you look for is where can you find proper cover, not tables, not doors, where you have something that can literally stop a bullet that comes at you. The problem we have here in Pakistan is most of the attacks that happen here are with explosives. They're not with assault weapons. So when you talk about explosives, we're talking to people and saying, listen, you've got to get yourself at least 100 meters away from the guy you see, which means as soon as you see someone suspicious, I don't care what point of the meal you're in right now or what point of shopping you're at, you drop everything and you get the hell out of there. Because if you think that person is about to detonate himself, don't stick around to find out. Just get out. You could always come back later, but don't risk your family's lives. Don't risk your own lives just because you think, well, no, maybe I'm wrong. And it was the hardest thing that we had to go through was from 2009 until 2013 when we had bomb blasts everywhere in Pakistan. I mean, there were literally 7-8 bomb blasts every day in Pakistan. Shopping malls, schools, open markets. Pakistan between 2007 to 2013, 2014 lost 85,000 people to terrorist attacks. And we had to teach people how to get off the X when they were in shopping malls. We literally told people, whatever you're doing, just drop it and go. Leave your credit card if you're in the middle of buying something. Just get the hell out of there. Because as soon as you realize something is not right, get out. Don't wait to see if something goes wrong. The problem most people have, and this is a lot of people, that there was a bomb blast in Islamabad at a lawyers' convention. And I remember talking to one of the lawyers who survived, and he said, I knew something was wrong, but I hesitated. I said, and that's why, you were injured, because you hesitated. Had you said, okay, something's wrong, get the hell out of there, you would have been safe. But that hesitation, that thought of it's not going to happen is the wrong way. Just get the hell out of there. We've been on the battlefield. When we feel something's wrong, we open fire. We don't wait. We open fire. It just over the past 4 days, some of the places we did infiltrations into, some of the doors we kicked down, we knew they were rigged. So we threw explosives in first. Blew up the
say it for the audience, Khalid. Say the acronym for the audience.
Yeah, we had plenty of BFEs over the past 4 days. Plenty of them. I think we took down something in the neighborhood of 35, 40 people in one round. When we have to protect ourselves, we don't care who we have to take down in the process. That's just what we do. And when we're talking to families about how they protect themselves, you're not carrying a weapon. You don't know how to react. The easiest reaction is get out of there. Get out. Get as far away as you can. You can always come back if things are okay. But get the hell out of there before something goes wrong.
Yeah, distance equals safety, right?
Yep.
So this is the time of the night. This is Randy's, favorite time of the night. So I'll do it really quickly. 3, 2, 1. All right, so it's time for the Carnival practical payoff. So this is a skill, an item, and a mindset shift relative to tonight's topic for everybody out there in the audience. And of course, the main topic tonight is about target selection. Jeff, you go first. Pick a skill, an item, or a mindset shift. Your choice.
Well, I've already covered skill, which is SDR, but the mindset shift I'm going to say is and I've hit on it before. It can happen here. It can happen to you, and be prepared. It's going to be a surprise no matter what it happens, but be constantly thinking, how do I get out of this parking lot if something happens? How do I get out of this store if something happens? How do I get out of this church if something happens? You've got to be constantly looking at not only your exits, but where's everyone else going to go? You may not want to go that way, because that's the death funnel. You don't want to be in that. But just run through your mind scenarios in your mind all the time and say, okay, I'm at the Fry's grocery store. Okay, I know there's 2 entrances up front, but I'm probably assured that if I cut through the butcher's thing, there's going to be at least another one in the back, because that's where they bring the stuff in from. If someone starts shooting in the front, getting out the back may be a better idea. But always be thinking that scenario, almost treat it as a game with yourself. If this happened, if A happens, what's my B?
So, great advice. Father Duck says all TV and state radio has just been taken out in Iran, just in breaking. I don't have any details beyond what Father Duck just shared, but I would hazard to guess it has something to do with our DEWs, directed energy weapons, similar to what we used in the Maduro raid. I'll see if I can't find a little bit, maybe when Khalid's talking. I'm assuming, Khalid, you got time to do a sit rep for the audience so they know your adventures. Yeah, awesome. So go ahead and pick a skill, an item, or a mindset shift that you can share, Khalid.
The biggest thing that we've started using around here, because you've got that weapon of mass distraction in your hand, start using it as an advantage. Turn the camera on to selfie and look around behind you and see who's there. Take a picture. Simple things you can do to not only identify people in different places, but understand what's going on in the area around you. People don't realize that the mobile phone with a camera with video recording on it is an asset if you learn how to use it. It's too many people have gotten to the point of, I need to take a picture of me and only me. That is a huge asset you can use. You can start, scanning the area around you, take a picture behind you, take a picture in front of you, shoot video in front of you. You can get evidence without anyone even knowing you're getting evidence, because once you put your phone up, people just assume you're looking at something on social media. If you're smart enough to understand that is an asset in your hand, it is a tool and a weapon at the same time. You can collect a lot of information on people around you without anyone even knowing you're doing it. But you've got to get used to doing it. And that's the skill I would tell people, is that if you're living in an area where you have a lot of jihadis, and that is anywhere in the Midwest of the United States, anywhere in Texas, West Coast of the United States, you've got a lot of jihadis in those areas, and it's using your phone as an asset. You're gonna get a lot of evidence that most people wouldn't even be thinking about getting.
Yeah, true story. So I'll just throw a couple out there quickly. For skill, don't wait until you go to your favorite place, whether it's restaurant, grocery store, whatever the case may be. Get it through your head now, not later. Where are the exits, like Jeff and Khalid stated? Where's a potential way that you could exfil without being in the crowd, without getting trampled? So I'm of Greek heritage, and the Greeks have a thing where lots of Greeks own restaurants, and other Greeks walk through the kitchen to go into the restaurant. It's a flex of sorts that Greeks always do. I'm telling you right now, if I'm in a restaurant and the shit hits the fan, I'm taking my family out the kitchen door, not through the front door. So do a survey mentally in your head of all the places you go to on a regular basis, and start thinking about parking, just like Jeff and Khalid mentioned, where the exits are. What do you do when your family's with you versus when you're by yourself? As far as item, I'm just going to state the obvious. ABC, like Keith always says, always be carrying. That goes without exception these days. And I won't say anything more than that. And mindset shift is that if you are being targeted, like Khalid and yours truly, start switching things up in your routine. In my case, don't walk the dogs at the same time every day. Don't take the trash out at the same time each week, and those sort of things. But if you're concerned and you want to be ultra safe, switch up your routine, switch up your habits. So anyway, that's the end of the main topic tonight. Thankfully, Khalid is going to give us a sit rep update. I don't know if Jeff has any more time or not. Either way is fine. Yeah, you're on mute, Jeff. Yes.
Yeah, I got to roll.
Okay. So what I'll say before I pass it over to Khalid, and I just want to share this with you as well, Jeff. So I have spoke to an immense number of people, as I mentioned, over the past 7 to 10 days, and they're all telling me the same thing, that we are fixing to see food scarcity issues in America that have not been seen since the Great Depression. And there's a whole ton of reasons behind this. You got 50% of the world's fertilizer just disappeared in the Middle East. You've got 80,000 beef farmers that have been put out of business in the past couple of years here in America. You've got inflation that's out of control. You've got gas prices out of control, which directly contributes to the price of every commodity, including food. I don't get any affiliate income from Carnival, just to be perfectly clear. I went to the owners of Carnival and I said, hey, is there any way that if I brought a bunch of people from Survival Dispatch to buy from you, that you could give them some volume pricing, like a bulk buy type of deal? And they said yes. So they worked up 2 different price structures, one for this many people and one for this many people. I showed the prices to Jason Picher, one of our guys, JP, you'll see him in the chat. And I showed him where the prices are if we get to that top tier, like discount, and they're unbelievable prices on these bags, right? So there's 6 ounces of freeze-dried meat in these bags. It's got 25-year shelf life. It makes 1.5 pounds of meat. It's all American beef, like 100% American. There's no mRNA, no antibiotics, no histamines, blah, 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 blah. If we get 7 more people to sign on before 0900 Eastern tomorrow morning, that'll get y'all into the upper discount level. I'm not making a penny off of this. I'm not getting any affiliate income. All I'm doing is collecting emails. I'm passing them off to Carnival tomorrow. They will email you with the instructions on how to take advantage of it. All you have to do is email support@survivaldispatch.com, put something in the line, like, Carnival, whatever. I'll get it on the list. I'll get it over to them. Then they're going to take over and they're going to tell you how to take advantage of it. But 7 more people, the price is freaking unbelievable. And then for those of you out there who have the same, like, I'm knocking these things out right now, by the way, because I live on Wasatch Wagyu in between Carnival meals. Greg has a couple killer deals going on. I'm going to throw them out there right now. Check this out. Sweet and spicy jerky, 10 strips, regular price $60, on for $30, but it gets better. You can use our discount code SD20 and get another 20% off of that. That means you can get $60 worth of this stuff for $24. That's the first offer. And then the second offer that he's got, this stuff's incredible, by the way. This is beef heart jerky. It's normally $100. You can get it for $50. Put the SD20 on it. You get another $10 off. You get $100 worth of this stuff for $40. The protein in this, I can't remember the number of grams. It's like completely insane. Well, here you go. 4 bags, 200 grams of protein. That means each one of these bags has 50 grams of protein, and beef protein is not the same as chicken and other types of protein. Check out Josh Bryant. He's a genius when it comes to stuff, and he's worked with world-class athletes eating chicken for protein, fish for protein, beef for protein. The athletes on the beef far outperform the others, but that's a hell of a deal right there. $40 for $100 worth of jerky. I'm going to turn this over to Khalid. Jeff, I don't know if you're in the background or not, but thank you once again for your time and insight. I'm going to turn it over to Khalid for his sit rep. And while he's doing that, and while I grab a cup of coffee, I'm going to put the links to Wasatch Wagyu in there. And again, if you want in on the Carnival deal, just email support@survivaldispatch.com, but you got to do it before 0900 Eastern time tomorrow. So that's it for that. Khalid, take it away.
All right. Let's see. I'll start off from Saturday. Saturday, Balochistan province here in Pakistan. It's the border province with Afghanistan and Iran. We had 11 CCTAs, complex coordinated terror attacks, attempted in the province. 35 dead in Pakistan, and we were able to wipe out all of the terrorists who were trying to carry out the attacks. Sunday, I was flown to Balochistan, and we took a strike team with us, and we were literally briefed on the plane going into Balochistan on what we had to do. I spent the past 4 days inside of Afghanistan, inside of Iran, looking for targets that were part of this attack. We had a lot of signal intelligence, and I mentioned this to Chris about a week or two ago, that a lot of our radios on the border were catching a lot of disturbance when we were trying to communicate with our guys inside of Afghanistan. So we knew that they had put buffers and breakers into along the border to keep us from talking to our guys on the other side. We captured a lot of people in the process, and in the process of capturing them, we were able to do a lot of interrogations. And I'm not going to say that we do CIA type of interrogations. We don't gently render people like the CIA does. We are very brutal in the way we carry out our interrogations. Beatings, threats of death, actual BFEs, everything is allowed for us. The reason for that is because we don't wear uniforms, and the Geneva Convention does not apply to us. So we're able to do things that the uniform guys aren't able to do. What we were able to figure out is that, one, we got our hands on the ISIS book that is the game plan they've got for the US, and that we'll talk about in episodes down the line because I haven't had a chance to go through it in full detail yet. America's about to get hit. If you haven't been paying attention, the number of cyber attacks that have happened in the US on banks, on stock markets, on infrastructure has gone up about 250%. Most of those attacks have been traced back to either Iran or to China. The US is about to get hit, and it's about to get hit in a way that it has not been hit before. What we understand from the people we were able to interrogate, the first attack is going to be cyber. They're going to hit your banks so that the money stops. You will not be able to pull money out. You won't be able to use your credit cards. The second hit is on your communications networks, your mobile networks, your telephone networks, fiber optics. Those will all go down, so you won't be able to communicate. Then they'll come after you with the armed assault. The intent behind it is to create a sheer level of panic among people, because when you're not able to pull out money from the bank, when you're not able to use your credit cards, when you're not able to make an online payment to somebody, all of a sudden you start entering a mental state of panic. Then when you see your mobile networks go down, then the panic increases. It will put you out in the streets. It'll put you into shopping areas. It'll put you into grocery stores. Once you move into those places, that's when the assaults will start. We've been talking about this for a long time, and people have been saying, we are just fear mongering, and we're looking for people to sign on to an idea that we have. First off, it's not an idea. I've got guys inside of probably 90 of the terror camps inside of Afghanistan. And they're my own employees. They are operating inside there. They're very close to some very senior leaders, and I'm not going to mention the leaders' names because I don't want to put my boys at risk. But we get a lot of intelligence that we don't put out publicly. Next week, hopefully, we will put out the 2026 annual counterterrorism assessment. It's a 90-page volume that I would recommend everybody, and we're giving it away for free. So I'd recommend everybody download it, read it, because the amount of intelligence that we give you in that book will make you understand what's going on around the world that it's not being reported in the US. We have covered every conflict area. We have covered every proxy network. We have covered the radicalization process that's going on and how it's going on. We have given you a model for your community that you can interdict in the process of someone being radicalized and pull them out of it. It's something that we've worked very hard on. The boys have done a lot of work putting this together. I put in my 2 cents here and there. But it's something that I think everybody should get their hands on. We'll be releasing it this week, hopefully. The thing that you guys have to understand is that there's a lot of misreporting going on in the US. And the reason I'm saying that is because the number of people that are being checkmarked to be removed from cabinet or be removed from very senior law enforcement positions in the US means that someone has fucked up, and someone has fucked up big. When you say things are clickbait, you have made it very difficult for people to get ready. Law enforcement has said this to us in the US many, many times, that we don't have this intelligence. We don't know this is going to happen. Europe right now is on high alert that synagogues, Jewish festivals are high targets for Hezbollah, for Hamas, for ISIS. There are literally books being put out right now by all the different groups on how to carry out attacks. The US is a different model. There are so many different targets inside the US that they can hit. The fact that nobody has paid attention to the drones flying over, and those of you who read the article we put out on Command 11, you'll understand why the drones flying over the US, military bases and other places in the US are a very huge security concern. The fact that it's not being interdicted, the fact that it's not being stopped is a question that we will always have. And we've laid out the laws in the US as to why you cannot shoot down a drone or why you cannot do anything with a drone. But that's all up on the Command 11 website. You can read it there. The problem you've got right now is that your law enforcement is ill-prepared to not prepared for what is coming, because they're not getting any information from the fusion centers. They're not being directed to the National Counterterrorism Center for the alerts they've put out. There are things that you don't understand because no one is telling you. And those of you who've been watching the SDN podcast, we've been saying all of the things that you need to get ready for. And if you've been following what we've been saying to do, even if food becomes scarce in the US, you have already built your stockpile because you've been preparing for a doomsday level event, and you are safe on every point of view other than fuel. And that's something that no one expected to happen with what was planned. The thing you need to pay attention to right now, be very key on the people around you. Too many people have gotten too comfortable with not paying attention to what's going on around them. And when you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, you become an open target. It's why we keep saying that, this is using your mobile phone to take video, to take pictures. It'll help you out when tomorrow you've got to make a statement to somebody. You need to be more aware. I mean, it's something here in Pakistan. I mean, over the past 10 years, I've gotten so situationally aware that I literally have turned around and walked right into the person that was following me, because I knew someone was behind me. I just didn't know who was behind me. So I turn around and walk backwards towards them. So when you cross them, it throws them off. It surprises them, and you see the look on their face, and you know who's following you. And it's very difficult for them to turn around and follow you because you've seen them now. It's a tactic we use here, but it's something that we've gotten used to doing here. Most people don't do it. In the US, you guys have gotten very comfortable with a complacent lifestyle. where nothing can happen, no one's going to hurt you, there's not going to be any attacks. You are on the edge. And Easter Sunday for ISIS, they've put out a 40-page book on how to attack churches and how to infiltrate churches. We got our hands on it. I think it was day before yesterday. We're going through it right now. We're breaking it down and putting the pieces together and how it works and what their intentions are. But Easter Sunday is tomorrow, and I'm really happy that Keith Graves has hammered this point, because no one else knew about it, and Keith came out and said, the churches are a target. ISIS has made the churches a target for Easter Sunday, so that's something you need to keep in mind there. When you're in church, put your hand under that pew and see if you feel anything. A lot of people are going to think I'm crazy saying this, but the more you're interested in protecting yourself, the more lives you're going to save, because things have been planted in places that you are not aware of. And it's like I said earlier, that somebody walking in on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Friday and walking through the church hall and putting stuff under the pews, putting something under the pastor's podium. That's an easy way for them to walk through and walk out, and you don't know what they've done. Be very aware around you. Number two, when you're in a public place, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a shopping mall, keep your head on a swivel. If you're not going to move your head around, keep moving your mobile phone around. Video, pictures, something looks out of place, take a picture and get the hell out of there. Because right now, I keep saying that every time we see an attack happen here in Pakistan, it's a test run for what's going to happen in the West. It's a test run of what's going to happen in the West. We have seen a massive increase in attacks in different provinces in Pakistan. The province that I'm from, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which was the most abused province by the Taliban, ever since we started bombing Afghanistan, they have stopped attacking this province, but they've activated their proxy network inside of Balochistan, which is the border province with Afghanistan and Iran, and we've seen attacks increase there. And when we've seen now a second CCTA happen in Pakistan, we know now the attack is going to happen there. And there's a story that I can't tell you, but when I come back to the US and we have our fireside conversation with a bottle of bourbon and a bottle of tequila and pork chops, then I'll tell the story then, because certain things I can't say on air that will keep us from getting thrown off. But there was one guy that I interrogated over the past couple of days, and literally it was over the past couple of days. We held him and we kept asking questions. The amount of knowledge he had, the amount of information he had that we were able to extract from him has changed our understanding of what's going to happen in the US and what level of attack is going to happen in the US. There are too many people with a lot of plans that have been in play for well over 5-6 years. They have done their surveillance, they have done their planning, they have understood what they're going to do. That one guy that we interrogated over 2 days, and we did everything to him. He literally gave us a lot of information that we did not have. And the information he gave us a very clear picture of what's going to happen in the US. The fact that we now know there's 100 sleeper cells, Irani sleeper cells inside the United States, is something we didn't know before. We were putting a number around 25, 30, maybe 40. To know there's 100 sleeper cells inside the United States, that makes us go, holy shit. That's a much bigger attack than what we were thinking. There is an assassination list that the Irani sleeper cells have been given. Some are political, some are economic, some are celebrities, but the impact of killing those people will be massive. I found it really funny. Right before we went into Balochistan, there was the Israelis put out a statement saying Donald Trump is going. There's an active plan that Donald Trump is going to be assassinated. That plan has existed since Qasem Soleimani was killed in a drone strike in Iran. That's not new intelligence. That's intelligence that existed since the first Trump administration. So we're a little surprised at the games that are being played right now, and we're a little surprised at the kind of intelligence that people are trying to put out. Be very careful who you listen to. Be very careful what you believe. There are a lot of people who are armchair analysts that are reading newspapers and watching TV and then giving you analysis based on that. The thing that most of us that actually work in the intelligence world are doing is we work from a concept called flash to bang. From the time the terrorist appears to the time he carries out an attack, that's the flash to bang. In the middle of that, there's a sanitation gap that happens. That sanitization gap that happens is what the intelligence community has to go through to take raw intelligence that they don't want the people knowing and getting that out of the public view and putting what they can tell you out in your into your stream. The people that you're seeing on X and on different websites and on different podcasts, they are telling you after what happens, they're giving you an analysis of what happened. Attacks is the last thing that happens. The attack is the last step in the process. That process starts well before that. So be very careful who you listen to. Be very careful who you're following, because there's a lot of people putting a lot of shit out and we're watching it. We see it, we know it, we understand who it is. But I can't, tell you who they are, because it's not fair for me to come out and say, well, so and so is full of shit, so and so is full of shit, so and so is full of shit. Just learn who the armchair quarterbacks are and who the people are that are calling the plays before they actually happen. For us here on SDN, we have given you more intelligence before it happens than anybody else has. And we keep giving you more intelligence before anything happens, whether you're in our element groups or whether you're on the broadcast with us. The amount of intelligence that we give you here, the amount of information we give you here, you're going to find that everything we have told you over the past 6-7 months, past year, is all coming into play now. And if you've been listening and preparing and understanding what we've been saying, you're ready for what's coming. And if you're ready, then you don't need to worry. But the problem is those people that have been going, well, no, it's not going to happen. No, we don't need to prep for it. No, this isn't going to be the situation. They're the ones that are going to hit the worst. Please, and this is what I'm going to finish off with. Please be careful who you're listening to, what you're looking at, because AI can fool you with so much stuff that you'll think something else is going on. Every mosque in the US is Muslim Brotherhood owned. Muslim Brotherhood is an arm of Al-Qaeda. That you need to connect. That does not mean every Muslim is bad, but that does not mean every mosque is good. And that's what I'll close with.
I appreciate that, Khalid. Thank you. A quick question for you. You mentioned that certain agencies have been taking intelligence from terrorist organizations, and that's, basically their take on things, right?
Yep.
Would it be safe to say that current CIA employees and former CIA employees have been getting, let's call it intel, from former Taliban who are in America and active Taliban who are in Afghanistan?
Yeah. A lot of the people that you guys brought back to the U.S. because they were part of either the Afghan National Army or were translators for U.S. forces or ISAF forces in Afghanistan are actually Taliban supporters. And they are now lobbyists. They are defense contractors to the Department of War. They are talking to the State Department, and they are actually pro-Taliban. And see, here's where my problem comes in. When we're applying for visas for the U.S., we have to hand over our social media accounts, so that the U.S. government can go through our social media and see if we have said anything against the U.S. The people that you repatriated as friends of the American forces, their social media was never checked.
Okay. Well, like I said, the point I wanted to make is that active duty CIA, former CIA, have been broadcasting intelligence that was given to them by either current or former Taliban. So current or former CIA, current or former Taliban is where a lot of people are getting, not a lot, former and current CIA officers, and that it's tainted,
Chris,
right?
Chris, the CIA is working directly with the Taliban's intelligence agency in Afghanistan. The CIA is working directly with Jelani's intelligence in Syria. Do you think really they're going to tell you the truth of who the terrorists are and who the terrorists aren't?
Yeah, that's my point, is that the people who are relying on this intelligence, either from current or, you know, are you ever really former Taliban? I mean, rhetorical question, but
No.
Anybody who's relaying intel that came from the Taliban, whether they're current or former CIA, it's tainted, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll give you a simple example. MI6 the other day went hopping crazy because they've been following 20 different terror plots. And in the process of following 20 different terror plots, they found out there were actually 50.
Oh,
And it was 50 because they were listening to people who had no idea what they were talking about, and they were feeding them dirty intelligence.
wow. That's huge. Absolutely huge. All right. So let me see what else I can get lined up for us for our sit rep here. Khalid, just give me a second to get something pulled up that's interesting. Oh, this is kind of interesting stuff. So there's a guy who released some video this week, Khalid, and I know you're off the grid. That is 4K video. I did a deep dive on it. It's not AI generated. And the claim is that the lapel mic that Charlie Kirk was wearing was the same thing as a Israeli exploding pager. And I mean, Mossad now has these things. They look like a little tiny bug that are essentially, you know, remote controlled drones for intelligence. It's crazy, crazy stuff. So I haven't had a chance to listen to this guy, but while we're listening to him, I'm going to go find the other video in slow motion that's in 4K. I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on first blush. So Iranian hackers that hacked Kash Patel and other government officials confirm the shaped charge mic theory. They explained every detail exactly. Shaped charge device planted in his microphone, designed to blast a hole through his chest. That allows for the 30-06 cover-up. Device malfunction caused a plastic shard to hit Charlie's neck, creating the massive wound we all saw. This is a week after that John Aaron Bray presented his theory. Israel orders Kash Patel to blow up the AES plant that made the device for the DOD. And so there's some screenshots down here, but let me play the full 3 minutes of this video. I haven't listened to this yet, but that'll give me a chance to go find the other video.
There's a story going around right now that the Iranian hackers that hacked Kash Patel's email also found evidence that our government murked Charlie Kirk with the exploding pen mic.
This is what we've pieced together from the emails and other intelligence sources. Charlie Kirk was never shot with a bullet. He was accidentally decapitated by a piece of shrapnel from a miniature explosive planted inside his microphone. The device was supposed to blow out his chest cavity, but the explosive malfunctioned. Instead of detonating downward, it ripped upward and took his neck. That is why security immediately ripped every device off the stage. That is why the security camera behind Charlie was yanked from the wall on live feed. That is why they literally stole his body from the scene before the coroner could arrive. That is why Netanyahu went on television within minutes to say it wasn't Israel before anyone had even asked. That is why the FBI took forever to find the killer. They had to rush manufacture evidence to match the lie.
He also dropped a bombshell. FBI top brass, including Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, may have sacrificed American lives to cover up the crime of the century.
The explosive itself was purchased in May 2025 from the Accurate Energetic Systems plant in Tennessee. There is a strong evidence suggesting the same device was tested at Fort Huachuca in the days leading up to the event. That's why there were shards of glass all over the floor of the van they hauled Charlie away in. That's why they poured several feet of concrete over the murder scene the same night. 1 month later, they blew up the plant in Tennessee and called it an accident. 16 Americans died in the blast. That's how paranoid they were about the truth getting out.
I'm not going to feed into whether that's true or not until we can get something a little bit more concrete. But how fucking amazing would that be if our own government finally gets ousted for all the shady shit it's done forever because of Charlie Kirk? Like this is not new at all. Our government's been killing people forever. We've killed 35 million just in forever wars and dumb shit like that. But if you don't think that the CIA and the government as a whole is not murdering people, then you've never heard of Terror Tuesdays under Obama. And I'm just going to tell you about them. So under Obama, they had this thing called Terror Tuesdays, where every Tuesday the CIA would get a nice little list of top people that need to get, and they'd go out and fly to wherever country they were, and they'd kill them. And those people could be people that they claimed were terrorists, or they could be leaders of opposition groups.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. Let me see if I can find. I've got a bunch of tabs open. I think this is it here. A mystery solved. What really pulled the fabric over shoulder. Now we have visual proof. Massive shout out to John Bray for obsessively tracking this down. This new 4K close up of Charlie shirt changes everything. We've said for months this was not a gunshot. It was an internal explosion detonated under his clothing, and now the evidence is undeniable. You can clearly see the explosive path. The blast starts at the left side of the mic, which is on the right side of his shirt, and detonates under the fabric. The object is propelled upward, creating that signature pinched effect on the shirt as it races towards his neck. Then in the ultimate confirmation, you see the object fall back down under the shirt, tracking diagonally across his chest before coming to rest on the bottom right. If you watch this clip frame by frame, you can literally follow the path of the PETN explosive device propelled by the blast. It starts at the mic receiver pack on his left belt. The explosive force drives the object up under his shirt. You see the shirt get pinched and yanked violently over to the left shoulder as the object is propelled toward the neck wound. The object then falls, traveling diagonally under the fabric. You can see the distinct bulge where it tracks all the way down to the lower right side of his shirt. Blah, blah, blah. Let's play this. So I'm not sure if this is the video clip. It's not. There's a video that actually shows one of the security guys walking over to Charlie Kirk, pulling something off of his shirt, handing it to somebody else, and then carrying on. And
I've seen that video. I've seen that video.
What do you make of this? Is it a Mossad exploding device, or is it just more psyop?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you heard the news story that came out that the 30-06 bullet that they have been using as evidence, they couldn't match the gun that they found, which has created a lot of stir as to how Tyler Robinson was responsible for killing Charlie Kirk. Again, Chris, this is one of those things that until there's solid proof, we don't have any way of knowing what really happened. We know Charlie was assassinated. Who did it? We'll never know. But Kash Patel's email was hacked by the Chinese, not the Iranians. And the Iranians have gone in 22 gigabytes of data they deleted from Israeli servers today, they announced.
Wow.
Yeah, they've got a shitload of data that they've gotten off of Israeli computers. They were able to get access via hacking. They were able to get access through people that they had paid to give them access and download stuff and send it to them. There is a game of some kind going on. I think Iran has a shitload of intelligence that they will release slowly but surely. What they know, what they have, they're not telling anybody.
Check this out, Clean. This supposedly is the purchase order. So, requirement is for a miniaturized XS demolition charges and demolition charges anti-personnel XS to support SPM, blah, 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 blah. And then over on the next side, the awarding agency, Department of Defense, Accurate Energetic Systems LLC, which is the explosive plant that blew up not too long after that in Tennessee, right? So there's that. And then let me just show people how small this can get. Qatar reveals an alleged Israeli espionage network using robotic insects, inside diplomatic hotels. Straight out of James Bond, Khalid.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
Well, the Chinese have got these as well. We've seen the Chinese ones. They have got little mosquitoes that they can fly around and collect pictures and collect information with. The level that surveillance technology has gone to is just unbelievable now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. So let me see what else interesting I have in my bookmarks for. Oh, here's a good one for you. Get us over on the other stage here. Breaking: Russia issues stark warning. Moscow says it will not stay silent if the U.S. launches a ground invasion, vowing full support for its allies and warning that any escalation will face a strong and decisive response. This is a clear message. Consequences will follow.
Iranian state media is now claiming that combat units from Russia's Chechen Republic have declared themselves ready to deploy to Iran if the United States launches a ground invasion. According to Press TV, these forces are loyal to Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov and have told Tehran they will fight alongside the Iranian armed forces if US troops move beyond air and missile strikes onto Iranian soil. The reports describe the ongoing US-Israeli war against Iran as a religious war and say the Chechen side is framing any direct intervention as a jihad, a battle of good versus evil in defense of the Islamic Republic.
What do you make of that, Khalid?
Yeah, I don't buy that one. Putin has said openly, that Russia will not get involved in this war. China said the same thing. They will supply arms and weapons, and they will supply satellite technology, but they will not put their own troops on the ground, because once you put troops on the ground, you have literally started World War III. Once Chinese forces are on the ground, or once Russian forces are on the ground in Iran, you've started World War III, because then it's a direct combat between two major superpowers. And Putin's not that stupid, and President Xi is not that stupid to, take on the Americans for Iran. China is playing a very dirty game. We did a post on this the other day. China is literally supplying Iran with all kinds of surveillance technology, all kinds of satellite technology. just so they can test out exactly what works against U.S. weapons. And once they have understood that, they're going to launch an attack on Taiwan. It's a very dirty game they're playing, but when you talk about battlefield warfare, this is how it's done. It's what the Russians have done with the Ukraine. I mean, they learned everything from the Ukraine. Now, Zelensky has cut a deal with Saudi Arabia to go and provide consulting services on how to shoot down drones and how to put drones in the air to combat what Iran is doing with Saudi Arabia. I still think it's a bullshit story. I've spoken to a couple people in Saudi intelligence, and they've also said that it's not true. But I don't trust the Saudis as far as I can throw them. So I don't know how much weight to put behind what they're saying. But the story's floating around that there's been a mutually beneficial deal cut between Zelensky and Saudi Arabia. But I don't think Russia's going to put forces on the ground of any kind. Wagner Group, maybe, but no.
Yeah, I agree. But give me your take on this one, Khalid. Breaking, the Islamic regime is now importing hundreds of battle-hardened Iraqi militias into the country to brutally suppress its own people. These foreign fighters, loyal to Tehran's terrorist network, are flooding across the borders right now, armed and ready to crush any uprising attempting to end this blood-soaked dictatorship. The regime no longer trusts its own forces. Instead, it's calling in Iraqi proxies to slaughter Iranians who dare to rise up for freedom. This is the desperate act of a collapsing regime that knows its time is running out. The world must not look away. Give me your take on that, Khalid.
It's true. I mean, we know that Iran has lowered Iran has lowered the induction age for the military to 12 years old.
Holy shit!
Yeah, what's going on in Iran right now? Look, I said this. I think last week during one of the episodes. Iran knows that their regime is in trouble. There have been a couple of uprisings inside the IRGC and inside the Iranian army. We see it happening. We know that when these things start to happen, the regime starts to panic, and they will start bringing in people from the Shia community in Iraq, which are militia organizations. They will start bringing in people from Syria. They will start bringing in people from the PMU, which is a anti-Kurdish force. They're going to try and reinforce their own military if their own military decides to revolt. And the Basij has also been activated. They're also killing off the senior commanders, different members that are very high up in the Basij. Iran is in trouble. Everyone knows they're in trouble, but what level they're going to go to try and protect their regime is still a question. And it doesn't surprise me at all that they're importing Iraqis, because the Iraqi Shias who have aligned with Iran, the Kitab Hezbollah, have been very loyal to Iran. The Houthis have also announced that if anyone tries to open up the Straits of Hormuz, they will close the other, I think it's Bab al-Manhab. They will close that passageway, so there will be no waterway out of the Middle East for oil to go. So Iran is calling on their proxy networks to activate, which makes me believe even more that there's going to be a sleeper cell attack in the US, because they want to deliver a level of pain to the U.S. for the amount of pain they're feeling in Iran.
Just to clarify, you mean something over Easter weekend?
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
With ISIS saying they're going to hit churches, I think you may see a little bit of coordination between ISIS and the IRGC. It won't be direct coordination, but you will see one playing off the other. One will create a problem and the other one will capitalize on it.
Give me your thoughts on, so Keith Graves released some of the, same stuff that you're talking about earlier today. Then he made an updated post and said that the the written instructions that came out for ISIS were specific to synagogues in America and not necessarily Christian
It's Europe
churches.
as well. It's Europe as well. It's synagogues in Europe and in the US, but ISIS has also been told to attack churches as well because, and the reason they've targeted churches is because of Pete Hegseth. Pete has been trying to reform the Department of War onto a Christian nationalism agenda, and he's been removing people from the military who will not toe that line. And anyone who's against the Iran war has been forcibly retired. So ISIS said, okay, if we're going to make this a crusade type of a conflict, and it's Christians against Muslims, then Christian churches are also open targets. Iran has also said, and I don't know if people have caught this or not, but because the U.S. bombed some universities and some schools in Iran, Iran has also said universities and schools in the U.S. are now valid military targets.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate the clarity. I figured when we wrapped up tonight, we'd make sure that everybody had a warning to be on their best situational awareness A game this weekend. But give me your thoughts on this. I mentioned it during the podcast with Jeff and JJ, but I want to hear your thoughts. So France just sided with Russia and China against the U.S. at the UN. France is a NATO ally. A NATO ally just blocked an American resolution at the United Nations alongside Russia, alongside China. The Strait of Hormuz carries 20% of the world's oil. Iran has shut it down for U.S. and Israeli ships. Nobody at the UN will authorize force to reopen it, not even America's own ally. Hours after France blocked the vote, Iran let a French ship through the strait. France cut a deal with Iran behind America's back. Let that sink in. NATO just told America not through our skies. A furious U.S. general went on Fox News and confirmed it. Italy, Germany, Spain, France, every single one of them, airspace closed, bases locked, go find another way. Not entirely true. Germany shouldn't have been on that list. They didn't do it. The empire built 75 years of alliances for exactly this moment. When the moment came, the Allies watched from the window. Fighting alone in the Middle East, nobody cares. Let me play this video just for additional context.
So, General, when you look at our allies, I understand this is our mission. If you want to say that they weren't briefed, someone could debate that. What I find offensive is that Austria, Italy, some limitations in France, and the UK, slow to come around, are saying you can't use the bases that we finance in order to launch this operation. Do you find that disappointing?
Disappointing? That's not strong enough. It's outrageous. I mean, here we are doing something that's in our national interest, in the interest of allies in the region, to be sure, but in the world's interest. I mean, the world economy depends on a distribution of oil out of the Middle East. Everybody knows that. So the benefit that comes from pushing back the number one predator for almost 5 decades, Iran, and taking away their capability, everybody benefits from that. And the fact that they take such a narrow view of this, I mean, the president has a right to be furious over the fact that France will not let us fly over their airspace, that Italy and Germany and Spain are not letting us.
It's outrageous.
These are bases there. These are U.S. bases and not letting us use our own U.S. bases to support the war. What are they thinking?
Right.
Khalid?
Well, there's another story behind this. Iran actually went to Europe and offered them a deal and said, we will give you oil, but you cannot, let the U.S. use your bases or your airspace. This is something we knew about 3 days ago when Pakistan was trying to negotiate a peace deal between Iran, the U.S., and Israel. Pakistan was sidelined because we went to China and said, listen, let's use China's force on Iran to get Iran to back off the war. So what Iran said is that, no, we're not going to trust Pakistan anymore. We're now going to go to Qatar, and we're going to use Doha as our principal negotiators. I trust Doha as much as I trust, what I flush down the toilet. because the Taliban has their headquarters in Doha. Hamas has their headquarters in Doha. Qatar is the financier for every terror group in the world. Qatar is the protector for the Muslim Brotherhood. Pam Bondi was just fired, and her FATA documents were released that she is a paid lobbyist for the Qatar government. Iran played a very dirty game. They went to Europe and said, "Okay, we will give you oil, but you cannot let the U.S. use the bases or the airspace." And some countries have already caved in, and some countries are about to cave in. But in terms of NATO, Chris, to be really honest, I never understood why the U.S. was part of NATO. I mean, if you look at the Iraq War, if you look at the Afghan War, NATO had very limited amount of forces there as compared to what the U.S. put on the ground. And to say NATO is a protector or an ally to the United States is like shooting yourself in the foot and saying, "Oh, the gun misfired." That doesn't work. NATO has never been a defender of U.S. interests. The U.S. has always defended NATO for NATO's interests. It's never been the other way around. And it's the reason Five Eyes has collapsed. It's the reason Nine Eyes has collapsed. It's the reason 11 Eyes has collapsed, because you were not getting GCHQ, the UK's version of the NSA, has so much intelligence that they don't share with the United States. And you wonder, where is that special relationship that Tony Blair and George Bush were always talking about, that we have a special relationship with the United Kingdom and with England. When you're not giving them intelligence, you're not giving them signal knowledge that comes out of the Middle East. What exactly are you an ally? How is that a special relationship? You have the same thing with German intelligence. You have the same thing with French intelligence. All of them live in little silos. They will share amongst the Europeans, but they will not share with the U.S.
Well, when this showed up on my news feed this afternoon, let me share what I post on X. To Spain, France, Italy, Austria, and Switzerland. This is from me, by the way. You just closed your airspace to American military aircraft while we're fighting the war that keeps your energy markets from total collapse. That's not neutrality. That's choosing a side. Here's your situation. You import the majority of your oil from a region we are currently stabilizing at the cost of American blood and money. The moment the Strait of Hormuz tightens, your economy sees. You have no meaningful domestic production, no serious strategic reserve, and no military capable of projecting force to protect your own supply lines. You're entirely dependent on American power while actively obstructing it. And while we're at it, Russia is sitting on your eastern border. You spent decades gutting your defense budgets under the assumption that America would always be there. Secretary Rubio said it plainly. If NATO means you get our defense umbrella, but deny us basing rights when we need them, that's not a workable arrangement. Trump made the same calculation. So did the American people. You called this war illegal. Pedro Sanchez called it unjust. Fine. Make that argument at the UN. But understand what you've done. You've signaled to Washington, to Tehran, and to Moscow that European solidarity with America has a ceiling, and that ceiling is whatever plays well in your domestic press cycle. America remembers, and next time you need us, we'll remember who is neutral, and we won't be there. So yeah, that's my response to them. I'm nobody in the grand scheme of things, but it was enough that I had to take the time to make that post because, speaking of potential American blood, there was a second airplane shot down. So we had an F-15 shot down. Now we've had an A-10 Warthog shot down, pardon me. Now the good news is, moving to the next one here, they've rescued both of the F-15 guys. Not sure on the status of the A-10 yet. Let me play part of this here. Minute and 44. I probably don't need to play the whole thing.
What we can say is that the President of the United States, President Trump, has been briefed on this downed F-15E warplane that went down over southwest Western Iran, not far from what we've been discussing a lot lately, Karg Island. This was in a province that is closest to Karg Island. Right now, we can confirm that a search and rescue operation is underway. It is a very risky daytime rescue operation. It's one of the reasons that we had been holding back some of the information that first came out on Iranian state television, showing the remains of some of the F-15E fighter jet that was broadcast. We didn't know at first whether that was Iranian propaganda. And now that we've confirmed that a search and rescue is underway for at least one of the two pilots, and the hope is that both of the pilots survive. But the Iranians have put out a reward for the capture of these pilots. This is a remote area. There are tribes that control this area. And again, we've seen that Pave Hawk helicopters, those are Air Force helicopters.
So I'll go ahead and stop there because we've got both of them, but I haven't seen a status on the A-10. I'm not sure if anybody in the audience knows if we've recovered the A-10 pilot or not.
Yeah, Tommy 2x4 says the A-10 pilots were also recovered. But
awesome.
Before we came on air, I was checking in on this one. I did not know the second pilot had been found. They'd found one, and the second one they were still looking for, and the A-10 was still down, and they didn't know where anybody was. Here's the thing. The Department of War, when the F-15 was shot down, they said that no plane has been shot down. And then they sent in spec ops. Special forces went into Iran and got the pilots back. I'm a little concerned right now as to the status of the A-10, because any plane that's shot down and that wreckage is left in Iran will be reverse engineered.
For sure.
And they will build something out of it. It'll either be handed over to the Chinese or it'll be handed over to the Russians, and they will reverse engineer it for them. That's how they came up with the Shahid drone. They took a U.S. An Israeli drone and reverse engineered it. And I'm worried as to what's going to happen with these two planes that have been shot down in Iran.
Well, what worries me even more is that the F-15E is one of the hardest planes to take down. So we've had, the reputation of having air superiority. If they're able to take down, some very high caliber planes like this, that changes the game tremendously. And my suspicion is that it was done with Russian or Chinese gear, and it's not something that the Iranians actually made.
Most of the weaponry, most of the satellite technology. Look, one thing that our audience doesn't know: Iran switched over from the GPS system to the Beidou system for satellite tracking. It's the same system Pakistan uses. We're also on the same network that China offers. It is pinpoint accurate, Chris. Pinpoint accurate. The May 2025 conflict that we had with India, Pakistan and India's war, the reason we were so successful is that we had the Beidou system and not the GPS system. That gave us superiority across all platforms. And Iran is using the same platform now. So plus you've got two Chinese spy ships in the water in the Persian Gulf and in the Indian Ocean, feeding them information. Russia is giving them targeting information for U.S. bases and U.S. troops and U.S. hardware inside of the Middle East. So they're getting a lot of help from the Russians and the Chinese. But the way they're using it is going to end up being very detrimental for Iran, which is what they haven't figured out yet.
Fair enough. This guy here, former SWAT team guy, veteran as well. Minute and 30 second. I'm going to play this just because he gives some good advice to everybody on this Easter weekend.
Public service announcements.
I'm sorry, that's as loud as the volume is. It's his volume. It's not mine. I can't control it. I can't make it any louder than this. So turn your volume up.
A vet and former SWAT operator. They intercepted transmissions to sleeper cells. Y'all know what time we in. Hey, this is the time to be on your A game for your situational awareness. When you go somewhere, always identify 2 exits. Pick your head up from the phone. You ain't got to be scrolling the whole time. Check your surroundings. Don't just look at people. Watch behaviors. See how people are moving. They nervous, they pacing, they just not fitting in that area and the activities that's going on. You gotta look for these things. Please, this is the time frame to really be on your A game, especially those in major cities. New York, Dallas, Houston, LA, especially World Cup's coming. Hey, this is the time to really be on your A game. If something doesn't look right, report it. Report it. I need everybody to, there's a lot of distractions out here. Pay attention. Take the time to just pay attention a little bit. This is the time for that. Like I said, they've already intercepted transmissions. Who knows when it's going to come? You got to stay alert. You got to stay alert. Till next time, stay.
So decent advice on his behalf. That's why I wanted to play it. It saves us having to outline the same stuff. So let me move over to the next one, Cleve. I want to hear how this potentially ties into attacks on America. So Iran just released a target list of 8 bridges across 4 countries. This changes everything. There's a bridge, Sheikh Jabir al-Hamad al-Sabah Bridge, targeted 36 kilometers over water. So what's that? About 21 miles. Kuwait's Northern Lifeline, no alternative route. King Fahd Causeway, targeted, only road between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. U.S. 5th Fleet logistics depend on it. Sheikh Zayed Bridge, targeted, 1 of 3 links to Abu Dhabi Island. Al Makta Bridge, targeted, 2 of 3, 2nd of 3 links to Abu Dhabi Island. Sheikh Khalifa Bridge, targeted, 3 of 3 links to Abu Dhabi Island, all exits named. King Hussein Bridge, targeted, Jordan's primary West Bank crossing. Damia Bridge, targeted, Jordan's secondary crossing. Abdun Bridge, targeted, Amman's central traffic artery. 8 bridges, 4 countries, 0 redundancy, 0 bridge defense doctrine. None of these bridges have alternatives. 0 redundancy. 1 strike equals total isolation. These bridges took years to build and cost billions. They cannot be rebuilt during a conflict. The real crisis hasn't even started yet. Let me blow it up a bit so it's not so much of an eye test. First of all, give me your thoughts on these bridges in the Middle East, number one, and give me your thoughts on similar targets here, like all of the bridges leading to New York City, the Golden Gate Bridge, and things like that.
Well, the U.S. and Israel bombed a Irani bridge that was completed, I think, end of January this year. It was the single lifeline between Tehran and the western provinces. Once that bridge was hit, Iran put out this list of eight bridges that they were going to target. If you remember last week, I said, Iran is playing tit for tat. You shoot this, you blow up this in our country, we'll blow up this in the neighboring countries. So what you're seeing right now is, since the U.S. and Israel targeted a bridge that was a major lifeline in Tehran, Iran is saying, okay, we're going to target the major lifelines that exist in your ally countries in the Middle East. These bridges are very important. There's one more that the Iranis have released, but it's not a bridge. It's the E11 highway in the UAE, which runs directly through Dubai all the way to Abu Dhabi. It is the main highway all the way through. All of the buildings that you see in Dubai are built on that road. And Iran has said they're going to target that road as well. It's basically tit for tat. Inside the U.S., the New York bridges and tunnels, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Mackinac Bridge, Ambassador Bridge in Detroit, these are all high-value targets. They've been high-value targets for well over 10 years, because if you take out the Ambassador Bridge, that takes out the route between Canada and the U.S. If you take out the bridges and tunnels in New York, you have shut down New York to a great extent. If you take out the Golden Gate Bridge, which has been on Al-Qaeda's list for well over 30 years now, you cut off San Francisco in a very major way. Whether they're going to carry out those attacks inside the U.S. right now or not is a question. I think they're going to hit the Middle East first to make them pay. Then they may target inside the U.S. Right now, our biggest fear inside the U.S. is soft targets, because Iran has been very open about this, that universities, schools, churches, these are all military targets now. You have hit them in our country, we are going to hit them in your country. So right now, I'm not worried about bridges in the U.S. as much as I'm worried about churches and shopping malls and schools in the U.S.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that, Clete. I've got two more things to share here before we put a lid on it for tonight. I just wanted a quick update for y'all. We have surpassed the number of people needed to get the very best pricing you will ever see on Carnival. And the way that this went down, by the way, is I went to the owners of Carnival and I said, look, we have brutal food supply issues coming, nothing that they didn't know about, that we're going to see scarcity like we haven't seen in our lifetimes. I said, is there any chance that if I brought a bunch of our audience to you and they all bought at the same time, that you could give them a substantial discount so they can get a bunch of high quality protein on the shelf? And they said yes, but they came out with two levels of pricing. We just passed the requirement for the top tier, like to get the very best discounts. Okay. I don't get paid a penny from Carnival for affiliate income or anything like that. They help us defer some expenses, but I don't have a dog in the hunt on this one at all. So we've got the numbers now. So here's the deal. If you get your email into support@survivaldispatch.com by 0900 Eastern tomorrow, it'll be part of the batch that I send off to Carnival. At that point in time, I'm done. I am out of the equation. They will reach out to you with instructions on how you can get the very best prices. Ask Jason Peich here. I'm sure he's in one of the chats here. I showed him the pricing, and it is a substantial discount that will give you a chance to get it on your shelf. I'll show you the stuff for Wasatch Wagyu at the very end, but I wanted to mention we got the best pricing now from Carnival. If you want to get in, clock's ticking till 0900 tomorrow. And by the way, when Carnival send you the instructions, it's good for a 72-hour window. After the 72 hours, it'll be done. And there's a reason for that. They're struggling, just like other companies are, to get their hands on high quality product. You know, their stuff is the best of the best, but it's got 25-year shelf life. So with that being said, let's listen to what this guy has to say, and this girl. And he says, you know, we keep trying to warn all of you, buy non-perishable food items, guns, and ammo. Shit's going to get real. And if you don't believe us, maybe you'll listen to this dude. Here's the deal, man. You hear all kinds of people saying, oh, we're never more than 9 meals away from anarchy. Bullshit. We are never more than 3 missed meals away from anarchy. Look at people beating the bejesus out of each other on Black Friday over a shitty TV. Our food supply chain is incredibly fragile because everything now is based on what's called 3 or 4 or 5 PL systems. Third party logistics, fourth party, fifth party. What that means is that a product drops to a certain stock level in your grocery store. The software automatically cuts a PO to the distribution center, automatically sends a bill of lading to the logistics company, and it shows up a couple days later, and the stock levels come back up again. There's no paper and pen and telephone alternative to that, okay? So number one. Number two, when attacks happen on America and people stop sending their kids to school, they're going to want to stay home with their kids, which means there's all kinds of people working in physical jobs that are part of the food supply chain that's going to break. It's going to absolutely break. I mentioned earlier tonight, if you just joined us, I've spoken to 2 logistics companies who every carrier that they use for food has taken the names off of their trucks and trailers because of the concern that they'll be hijacked because people know that they're carrying food. Your average grocery store has 3 days of food on the shelf. 1 day of panic buying in Florida when a hurricane approaches wipes out everything on the shelf. Imagine that happening across the nation, and people who have no food, what they will do to get food. They will commit murder to get food if that's what it takes. This is a huge looming problem that we've been warning about. And again, listen to what this guy has to say.
Look, I'm not trying to scare you, but there's a lot going on right now that is not making it to the news. This right here is in Australia.
So Sienna and I have just come to Coles to literally get popcorn. And look, there's nothing. Look at the shelves here in Darwin. What the?
Right now, everybody's focused in on this war that's happening with Iran and how they blocked the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil and gas is supposed to be flowing through, but it's not at the moment. This is causing some really big problems. People in India are fighting over gas. Australia's energy minister has said that they have about 38 days of gas and 30 days of diesel left in their reserves. The Philippines declared a state of energy emergency, and the International Energy Agency is saying this is the worst energy crisis in modern history. But that's not the full story. What people haven't been talking about is the fact that 30% of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade also passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Prices for that primary fertilizer called urea is already up 30%, and you better believe that's going to show up in your food prices. And unlike with oil, there's no international reserves of fertilizer that can just be released to relieve some of the pressure. Right now, the United Nations World Food Program is saying that around 45 million additional people could be pushed into acute hunger due to rising food and fuel costs and supply chain disruptions. And for all my Westerners who think that this isn't going to affect you, listen up. All of this is happening right at the beginning of the planting season in the Northern Hemisphere. Farmers are having to make tough decisions about what exactly they're going to do. Are they going to buy fertilizer or just sit this season out? How much fertilizer are they going to buy? What crops are they going to plant? And for some, this might completely put them out of business, right as the farming industry in the United States continues to consolidate into fewer and fewer hands. Another thing that's finally starting to make it to the news is that there's a wildfire in Nebraska that's already burned over 800,000 acres of land. And this has devastated grazing land for an estimated 40,000 plus cows, which means ranchers are also going to be under a lot of pressure to figure out how they're going to feed these cows. Jeffrey Snyder, the founder of Eurodollar University and a popular analyst here on Twitter, pointed out that we also need to think about the fact that the biggest concern doesn't have to show up in food and gas prices. History tells us that this spike in the price of oil might actually come at the cost of your job. We know that the economy in the US already isn't in the best spot, so any extra pressure, businesses might just start cutting workers as they're also raising prices. Look, I don't want you to be scared. I just want you to be prepared. The major signal for me is whether or not the Strait of Hormuz opens back up and these ships start flowing in this region again. Not what these world leaders are talking about. All they're doing is yapping, trying to manage reputation and also manipulating financial markets so they can make money. Once the Strait of Hormuz opens back up, all of this is going to be mitigated. But until then, like I said, don't be scared, be prepared. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe to stay up to date as the situation develops.
Very, very well said on his part, Clete. I want to say that he covered a lot of bases there. I want to just quickly say something here to Tommy. He wants to know where you get your intel from. Tommy, as Khalid mentioned earlier, most of the intelligence that you're hearing, if it comes from current or former CIA agents, is coming vis-a-vis former Taliban or existing Taliban, and it's very tainted intelligence. Khalid has over 400 guys on his team. He runs an intelligence agency and militia out of Pakistan that's under contract to multiple governments. When Khalid says this is what the intel is, it's because he has boots on the ground in behind enemy lines in Afghanistan that have penetrated, it used to be 80, but 90 plus terrorist camps. This is directly from the terrorists. Khalid just spent the past week interrogating terrorists in 3 different countries where they use all kinds of nasty methods to get people to speak. This isn't Khalid getting intelligence from somewhere. This is Khalid's first-hand intelligence. I want to make that crystal clear to everybody in the audience. This is not stuff that's coming second and third hand. He's there. He's doing it. His guys are doing it, and they've been doing it for 20 years. So I don't want to beleaguer the point, but that's just that. I want to go to this next one, Khalid, and get your input on this. This is not a terrorist act, but this speaks to situational awareness, and this is absolutely brutal. Thankfully, they kind of black out the parts that would get us thrown off of platforms like CommiTube, but this is why we preach constantly. Put down the weapons of mass distraction. Don't go in public, especially gas stations, with your face buried in your weapon of mass distraction. And don't confront people at gas stations like this lady did. It cost her life. This is unreal. Fort Myers woman fatally beaten outside Chevron gas station on MLK Boulevard. Okay, well, here's your hint, MLK Boulevard. Surveillance video from the Chevron gas station and D&D convenience store on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard shows a man repeatedly striking a woman's vehicle with a hammer at 6 a.m. this morning. The victim, a clerk at the store, exited to confront him. The man then approached her and fatally struck her with the hammer, knocking her to the ground. He continued striking her before casually walking away. Police are searching for the armed and dangerous suspect. Nearby schools were placed on lockdown during the search. The investigation is ongoing. I'm going to play the whole thing. Whether it's concerns over terrorists attacking your church, concerns over terrorists attacking shopping centers, concerns over terrorists attacking public gatherings like concerts and sporting events, or it's something as simple as being gas station ready, which we have been hammering on for almost 10 years now at Survival Dispatch. It started before I acquired the company. I've carried it on for the past 5 years. Gas stations and convenience stores are both top 5 locations to be accosted. You got to pay attention. You got to be aware of what's going on around you. And for God's sake, don't go and confront somebody who's doing something like this. So again, thankfully they blurred that out. If I played that real video on YouTube, we would be instantly deplatformed. There's a passerby coming in the right side of the picture.
If you need a steel garage in Montana, Florida, you can deal locally with Eversafe Building. Our South Florida offices are based in Palm Beach County. All our crews are Florida-based, insured, and licensed with the state. See what our local Loxahatchee customers have to say about their experience with Eversafe.
I purchased my buildings and Eversafe buildings back in 2018 to run a wood shop.
So I'm going to go ahead and get that off screen now. Here's the deal. Anybody who's in that type of situation, whether you work at the gas station, you're inside the gas station, you lock the front door, you barricade the front door, and you call 911. It's that simple. If you're outside, get out of Dodge. If you pull into a gas station and you get a bad feeling, leave the gas station, choose safety, go to the next gas station down the road. It's a little safer. For those of you who are new followers, before I turn over to Clete for his thoughts on this, Tony Blauer, very close friend of mine. He's considered the world's preeminent subject matter expert on sudden violence. He teaches what happens in the seconds before an attack. Gets a call a few years ago from this lady, and he's been doing this for about 40 years now. And she says, "You probably don't remember me. I took one of your workshops, 20 years ago. You saved my life last night." But Tony, smart guy, he remembered her. He said, "How did I save your life?" She said, "Well, it was the end of the day. I left the office. I was on a conference call on my cell phone. The sun had just gone down. I got on the interstate. I'm on the conference call. The dashboard goes off. I'm out of gas." She pulls off the interstate, pulls into a gas station, gets out of her car, and all of a sudden realizes she's in the middle of the hood and she's on this conference call. But she did what Tony taught her to do. God bless her. It saved her freaking life. She's got it on mute, so the people on the con call couldn't hear her. And pardon my French, but this is how it went down. She started screaming in the phone, "You fucking assholes, turn my fucking credit card back on. I paid this fucking balance in full last week. Now my car has no gas. I got no cash. And now my fucking credit card doesn't work. Turn my goddamn card back on." There were 3 guys who had been walking towards her, bad guys, had taken an interest in her. And that's why she said all of those things. They walked away. Car had no fuel. She had no cash. Credit card didn't work. She was of no value to them. That's how you maintain situational awareness, and you stop somebody dead in their tracks because you're no longer of any value to them. Khalid, words of wisdom, situational awareness, whether it's a terrorist hot environment or it's something like a gas station. By the way, Tommy, I saw your comment that you're a former cryptologist. Thank you for the compliment. He gave you a compliment, Cleet. He said basically, okay, cool stuff. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate that. Thank you, Father Duck, pardon me, as well, who gave us a great compliment. We always appreciate that. Khalid, drop some pearls of wisdom on the audience for situational awareness before this Easter long weekend.
Well, look, I've been talking about kind of situational awareness throughout the episode. The thing, the principles I live by is, operate like a gray man. Be in a location, but don't be memorable. I always keep my hands free. Even when I'm out shopping, I have a backpack that I carry with me. Even when it's empty, I carry it with me. The reason I carry the backpack is so that I can keep my hands free in case something happens. I'm always armed. So if something goes wrong, I've either got a knife.
Can I throw one thing in here just because it's really important?
Yeah.
This is from Tony Blauer as well. The first reaction when you're under attack, let's say at a gas station or like Clete said, wherever you're out and about, is to clamp down on whatever is in your hand. So if you're leaving the store and you got a couple bags and you're right-handed, carry the bags in your left hand, keep your strong hand free so that you don't automatically go into that. It's called a startle response. You don't flinch or go into that startle response, and your hand's free and you can retrieve whatever self-defense weapons you have. Sorry, Clete, it's really important that people know that.
But I carry a knife, I carry a gun, and I carry a stick. These are all on me at all times. I'm trained with all of them. So if I have to deal with someone at a distance, I have a stick that I can smack them in the head with and deal with. If I see a gun, I pull a weapon. But my hands are always empty. I never keep bags in my hand. That's what I keep a backpack on my shoulder for, is so that my hands are always free. The other thing I always do is I weight down my backpack. Bottom of my backpack has a little bit of, let's say a false bottom where I've put some weight. So if I need to swing that backpack and knock somebody in the head, I can do that as well. The more you learn how to protect yourself with the things around you, the safer you will be. I can't stress it enough. Even when you're in church, I would even say that if you can carry a walking stick with you, carry a walking stick, because that turns into a weapon when you need it. You can disarm somebody with that. You can smack somebody in the head with that. The key you need to keep in mind is don't think that you're safe anywhere. The amount of crime because of what's happening in the US right now, the chances of a terror attack, the chances of a sleeper cell attack are absolutely above 100%. The chances of it happening this weekend are very high because IRGC and ISIS have clearly said this is the weekend. The churches will be full. People will be out and about. This is the weekend. If we want to hit, this is the weekend to hit. So we have been warning people left, right, and center. And what we have heard from the people we interrogated over this past week, the plans are already in place. They have, now that ISIS has put it out in their magazine that the churches and synagogues are a target, you need to be more aware. If you don't have a security team in your church, then take it upon yourself to not hear the pastor's sermon that day, and stand by a door just to protect your church. Lock it up. Make sure you're there, because your protection, yours. I give you an example of a 16-year-old kid who saw a suicide bomber coming towards the school, and instead of running away, went and ran at the suicide bomber, tackled him, and let the guy blow him up to protect his school. There are heroes everywhere. Learn to be a hero. And being a hero sometimes means getting your family off the X. Sometimes it means disarming the person that's coming at you to attack. You've got to figure out where your skill set is. If you are going to slip into condition black, then get your family out of that situation so that you don't end up being a victim. If you are trained and mentally aware and able to handle a CQB situation, close quarter combat situation, then go ahead and attack who's coming at you. But don't try and be a hero when you don't have the ability to be one. Learn what you can do and follow what you can do.
Solid advice, Khalid, and I appreciate that very much. Want to show people some stuff just now that we're on this particular topic. So I have no relationship with these guys. This is a survivalgear.us. So survivalgear.us. This is the CIA self-defense tool set. There's 4 pieces to it. This one is one of my favorites right here. Let me get it so y'all can see it. And these are basically G10 they're made out of. So this is a dagger, and it's got a serrated edge on it. So it's plastic. It's G10. And if you look on this side here, you'll see that it's got a clip on it. I put this inside my cowboy boots when I go anywhere where you're not allowed to have weapons, like concerts and stuff like that. So I'm not completely disarmed. I fly with these all the time, by the way. They make other daggers that are shown in that picture, like this one. They make the one that everybody likes to joke in the middle here and call it the ice scraper. It's kind of like brass knuckles, just a little bit different. And then something else. And if y'all are interested in that, I'll throw the link out there right now. I don't have any discount codes. Again, I don't have a relationship with this guy. There are similar products out there in Midway USA, Amazon, but these guys, this kit is really, really solid and good. I want to just mention one other thing quickly while we're on this topic. So I mentioned LEP earlier, so laser emitting phosphorus beam, and this type of flashlight delivers, let's see if I can catch it for y'all. See how concentrated the beam is? It's like literally a circle on my hand. I can shine this down our street to the first bend, which is, a quarter of a mile away, and I can hit the stop sign and make the stop sign line up so bright it's blinding in itself. Okay, so why do I mention this? And you don't necessarily have to have that kind of flashlight as your EDC flashlight. So let me just use a smaller one as an example, like this guy here. And this one still has pretty decent lighting to it, but it fits in my hand quite nicely. When somebody is behaving suspiciously, doesn't matter if it's day or night, and they come towards you and you shine a flashlight down at the ground, number one, that's the first way to interrupt their OODA loop, which is, orient. Geez, I'm having a brain fade. Khalid, OODA. Observe, orient, decide, act. Sorry, duh. That happens at the end of a 17-hour day. Anyway, if you interrupt somebody's OODA loop, they lose the element of surprise. There's a good chance they'll leave you alone. But like the guy the other night ago that Cindy and I came across, I hit him directly in the eyes with this beast, and that was it. And he was stunned that I did that. If you're going to concerts, and wherever else, and you can't get in with weapons, I'm telling you right now, number one, most of the guys who do the wanding are too lazy to go below your knees. Number two, when you clip this inside your cowboy boots, even if they ask you to take your boot off, they probably aren't going to spot it. But no matter what, have a flashlight with you for 2 reasons. Number one, interrupt people's OODA loop. The other thing is if you hold it like this and you look at decent tactical flashlights, see how the end cap has like a serrated type shape to it, and you can change the rings on a lot of tactical flashlights. You'll see that this one is even more pronounced. It's kind of hard to catch in this lighting here. This is actually pretty sharp on the end. Somebody comes at you and you smack them with this in the face, preferably the eye, they're probably not going to be attacking you anymore beyond that point in time. Check out Tony Blauer's stuff, though. He's got multiple websites. He's a friend, but I don't have anything. I don't get affiliate money from him or anything like that. Check out Tony Blauer, the Human Weapons System, his No Fear. Sometimes you all probably see me wear the shirt that says KNOW, No Fear. He's the guy who coined the term weaponize the flinch in the 1990s. And what that means is that if you were in front of me, Khalid, and I threw a ball at you, you would probably go like this, right? Automatically. You would try and stop it from hitting your face. So weaponize the flinch means that you recognize through reps and training that, oh shit, here comes something at me. I flinched. I protected my face. You immediately go on the attack. If you back up, you're fucked. You're probably going to get the shit kicked out of you. But if something comes at you like a fist and you go like this and then you go at them and you close the gap, your chances of survival, even if you're not the greatest fighter in the world, just went way up. as opposed to going backwards on your heels. Because guess what happens? You go backwards on your heels. You catch one on the chin, it rings your bell, and your DRT right there. So end of lecture on that. Situational awareness, super key. Khalid, you got any closing points?
I just got a message from someone inside of Iran that they've just received 500 ICBMs from North Korea.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a live release from someone inside Iran that they've just received 500 ICBMs from North Korea. So Iran's not backing down in any way, shape, or form.
Wow. I don't even know what to say about that. What's the typical range, like from North Korea to Japan, I think is the limits of their ICBMs. If they're intercontinental ballistic missiles, theoretically, or not theoretically, but by all rights, they have to travel 3,300 miles. That means that all of Europe would be within range for Iran, right?
Yep. I'm just trying to figure out what weapon they got, because the name I've seen before, but I just want to check what the range on this is. Yeah, it's a pretty healthy range. They can hit all of Europe.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, this just came through. This literally, while you were talking, the message hit my phone and I went, what? Yeah, they just got 500 Hwasong 18 ICBMs. HWASONG 18 ICBMs.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty crazy. Let me check out worldmonitor.app to see what they've done. Holy shit. They just moved the DEFCON level up significantly on worldmonitor.app. So y'all can check that out, worldmonitor.app. They've literally put us at DEFCON 1, Khalid.
Holy shit.
These are let me share this.
ICBMs.
Let me share this. That's the first time I've ever seen this on World Monitor. See how it's red here?
Yeah.
And that's the pizza thing as well. So that means there's a shit ton of pizzas being ordered right now. But I don't have any dog in the hunt with these guys either. By the way, worldmonitor.app. It's in beta right now, but the volume of information that you can put together, like I've got the map pinned up top, but you'll see all these boxes below. So it'll pre-populate a bunch of stuff for you. Again, you can click the reserve your spot and get in line for a paid access, pardon me, when they do that. This is an incredible thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, 9,300 miles. That's the operational range.
That's America.
Yeah.
That's all the way America. So
it's a full 3-stage rocket. It's a full 3-stage rocket. Carries it can carry a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, I'm just doing a searcher on the way the bird flies. The lower 48 from Iran is somewhere around 7,150 to 7,300 miles, but 6,100 miles from Tehran to New York City. The middle of Iran to the middle of the lower 48, 7,243 miles.
Yeah.
Shortest possible, westernmost Iran to easternmost continental U.S., meaning Boston, 5,900 to 6,000 miles.
Yeah, this can hit the U.S., Chris.
Yeah, so what
it's on a mobile launcher as well. It's on a mobile launcher as well, so they can move it wherever they want and fire.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say right now, Khalid. I mean, that's just
this one just hit. This one just hit my phone when you were talking. I was like, okay, this one is big. And it's an ICBM, so it can travel. It's a 3-stage rocket.
Huh. So my advice to everybody is keep an eye on worldmonitor.app for starters. It's an incredible, as you can see, there's just a ton of information. You can filter it down, by the way. And again, I don't have any dog in the hunter. It's got nothing to do with me. They just released new version. You'll get that pop up when the coders are working on something. But I've got Iran attacks, intel hotspots, military activity, and that's it checked right now. And there's, by the way, the reason I had that, Khalid, is because 4 weeks ago I was tracking military assets traveling from our east coast to the Mediterranean, the far end of the Mediterranean. And inside of about 3 days, I had it going on my pad beside me here, about 50,000 ground troops. And they're all there now, by the way. And that's something the mainstream media is not going to tell you, but you can find out on worldmonitor.app. So anyway, keep an eye on worldmonitor.app. Keep an eye on Khalid's X account. If you're not a Survival Dispatch Guardian, go to survivaldispatch.news, sign up, because you'll get access to our SDN system, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. And what that is that whenever there's any type of SHTF event that puts American lives in danger, we send alerts to your email, we send it to our Substack, we send it to the SDN's channel on our private Element server, we send it to the POC-Link radios, we send it to the app on your smartphone for the POC-Link radios, and it's all real-time SHTF alerts. And what we've done a few of them, over the past year, and not one single person has ever reported they didn't get them. It's only $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year. You get 2 months for free, and you get all the intel, you get the warnings, you get all kinds of stuff. So, wow. Okay, so you ended this one on a pretty crazy note, Khalid. I don't know what else to say at this point in time until we.
Code Red Trauma just asked what my source was. That's an actual Command 11 asset inside of Iran. I'm not going to say where inside of Iran, but they're the ones that sent me the message saying that they just got these missiles.
There you go. All right. So listen, I'll be back Sunday night, the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern, with my personal podcast. It's only on X, so at Survival Report, and my Substack, C Heaven. You can see my name, Chris Heaven, right? So letter C, HEAVEN.substack.com. The reason it only goes to those two platforms, I cover all kinds of shit that would get me instantly deplatformed on CommieTube and other woke platforms. Khalid, he's barely got to open his mouth and he gets us kicked off of Facebook, for example. So, not that I give a shit about
Facebook.
Yeah. No, it doesn't really matter to me in the grand scheme of things at all. But at the end of the day, if you want real-time intel and you want to stay connected, get inside our Guardian network, survivaldispatch.news. That's where everything comes together. Khalid puts a wealth of intelligence in there that you can't get anywhere else. You can ask me questions. You can ask him questions. It's literally the center of the universe for this kind of stuff, at least for our universe. Khalid, appreciate you joining us tonight. Appreciate the information as per usual. I know that you're probably going to be dispatched again shortly. Godspeed. Stay safe. Don't get BFE'd. You just want to do the BFEs. You don't want to be the BFE, right? So
we've had some fun for the past week. Again, there's stories I can't tell. If I write my memoir, I'll put them in there. But we had a couple interesting BFEs that we did over the past week, and the boys kind of asked me a few questions. Went, how in the fuck did you do that one?
So just like spoiler alert here, Khalid has a book. It's on Amazon, and when he writes his next fictional piece, kind of like Jeff MD's 5 fictional books, read between the lines. That's all I'm saying. Read between the lines. All right, that's it. God bless our law enforcement officers. God bless our military. God bless America.
God bless America. Stay safe this weekend, guys.
Absolutely. Stay safe. Stay tuned for more information tomorrow. Sign up for the Carnival bulk buy. Just email support@survivaldispatch.com and check out this video. I didn't know this until recently. Lebanon used to be a majority Christian country. Listen to what this lady has to say. It's a killer closing video. Godspeed, y'all.
I come from a country, Lebanon used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. Most people don't know that. When they think of the Middle East, they think it's all Islamic countries. But Lebanon is the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded, we were fair. We prided ourselves on our multiculturalism. We welcomed everyone to our country, especially from the surrounding Arabic countries, because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Middle East. Muslims used to send their children to come study in our universities because we had built the best universities in the Middle East. They graduated and worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East, even though we did not have any oil. Lebanon was known as Paris of the Middle East, the banking capital of the Middle East. And as Christians, we focused on education. Education was very important to us. You know, we educated girls and boys, you know, no difference. We were living the good time. Unfortunately, all that began to change by the 70s because of two things. The enlargement of the Islamic population in Lebanon, because we Christians marry one spouse until death do us part. We don't have many kids. Muslims, on the other hand, are allowed to marry up to 4 wives at a time. Now, of course, not all of them do it, but enough of them do it that in our country, in Lebanon, by the 70s, the Muslims became the majority. And once they became the majority, they started massacring the Christians and killing the Christians. I remember in 1974, we stopped traveling. We used to go spend Christmas and Easter in Beirut with the rest of my family. And we stopped traveling, and I would ask my father, why aren't we going to Beirut for Christmas this year? And my daddy would say to me, well, we just decided to stay home this year. And, you know, I couldn't understand why. And later I learned is because Muslims started setting up fly-by-night checkpoints, and they would stop Christian cars traveling. And when they would get people out of the car and look at their ID and find out that this is a Christian family traveling, because in Lebanon, our religion is written on our national ID, on your driver's license, on your passport. So when they see that this is a Christian family traveling, they would get everyone out of the car and shoot them in cold blood. So we became prisoners to our homes and our cities and our communities. And that's the reason why we stopped going anywhere. By 1975, that's when the war broke out, the civil war. And the war broke out because Muslims walked into a church on a Sunday morning and began firing, shooting at Christian worshipers, and injured hundreds and killed 4 people. And that's what started out the all-out war. And it was a very difficult time for the Christians, because as the Muslims organized and now supported by the oil money flowing out of Saudi Arabia and all the Muslim countries, they wanted to basically use Lebanon as a base from which to fight Israel, kill the Jews and drive them into the sea, using Lebanese democracy and Lebanese open-mindedness and tolerance to do exactly that. And that's really when my world turned upside down and it changed. Lebanon was so multi-faith and multicultural. So we had Druze, Muslims, Christians, Protestant. The majority were Christians. We were over almost 70% Christians when we got our independence in the 40s. But because of the way Muslims multiply, you know, with the multiple wives and multiple kids, in 30 years, they became the majority. And when we got our independence from France and Lebanon, because we are, you know, Judeo-Christians, you know, come from Judeo-Christian culture, we're very fair. So we made sure we divided the government to make sure that Muslims have representation. So the president of the country was Christian, the prime minister was a Muslim, the prime minister, you know, the secretary of state. We had different assignments for different religions. But the Muslims became the majority. And once they became the majority, they were no longer tolerant of the people who took them in and accepted them and included them in the country. They felt they were not a part of the country. They felt they were a part of the Islamic Ummah or the Islamic nation. So when they turned against their brethren Christians who lived in the same country, and Jews, but specifically the Christians, they began massacring us in large numbers because they thought we are in power now and therefore we set the rules on how things should be. And that's really what drove the country into war. We had the problem controlled when it was only the Christians in Lebanon and the Muslims in Lebanon. But what aggravated the situation was the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan, who came to Lebanon. And Lebanon was the only country who took them in. Because we were the only country that accepted the third wave of Palestinian refugees, while the Muslim countries did not want them. And that's what really changed the situation. That's what tipped the scale.